All right, I think we are finally live. What is going on, everybody? It's Randall Thor 19, the man with the million, and I'm here again once more on a Saturday, unfortunately, with the Xbox 2 podcast, and with me is one of my best mates, Jez Corden of Windows Central. What is going on, Jezzy?
Hey man, not so bad. Man, this week was grueling. 2 Xbox embargoes, Amazon Prime Day, 2 days of Prime Day. Why they call it Prime Day when really it's Prime Days? 2 days of Amazon Prime Day.
Yes. And it was
it
was horrible, right? Like I was looking for
Yeah.
stuff to buy and it was nothing. It was one of the worst Prime days that I could realistically imagine. Like I didn't get a single thing.
Oh,
So
I just meant it was horrible because of the amount of work we have to do. But I actually did buy some things for Prime Day. I bought the Gears of War Razor Goliathus mouse mat with the lights in it because I thought you can never have too much RGB in your life. And I bought a Samsung Galaxy S6 tablet.
ooh, interesting. I actually did buy something. It wasn't necessarily part of the Prime Day deals. I bought a new TV, which I showed you. It'll be here Friday next week, and I'm pretty excited.
Ooh.
So most of you know I have a LG OLED. I got the B8 series a couple years ago, 55 inch. But you know, with the dawn of the new generations, essentially using the HDMI 2.1 or 2.1 or whatever they call it. 120 frames up to 4K at 4K resolution, plus variable refresh rate and G-Sync and all that stuff that are on the newer TVs. Well, my B8 didn't really have that. So I thought to myself, you know what? I kind of want to go into next gen with the best possible visual experience I can have, both for the PlayStation 5 and the Series X. So yeah, I ended up buying a LG CX OLED that is 65 inch. So I paid the extra money and I went the extra 10 inches. So I got the 65 inch OLED. So yeah.
Damn. You are now Randall 120 hertz.
And I see someone
120.
I see someone who's not happy that we're talking about private things. It's like, listen, we talk about whatever we goddamn well please, okay? If that's talking about what the stuff we bought on Prime Day or the games we're playing, that's what we'll talk about. We'll get to the topics. So, and I think most people realize that because we've been doing this podcast for 3 years and it's a very similar formula. So you can shut your mouth. People are so rude, dude. People are just so rude. Aquaman, when is Final Fantasy VII Remake coming to Xbox, Jez? Have you heard anything?
Man, I ain't heard a damn thing about Final Fantasy VII Remake. It's kind of reminds me of like the Destiny marketing deal back in the day. Don't ask, don't tell sort of thing.
Right.
You just need to wait and see. Like the rumor was that it was a year's worth of exclusivity. Nobody can really confirm anything. So if it is a year's worth of exclusivity, we'll start hearing things in April? Is that it?
Yeah, it was supposed to be about April. It was 12-year exclusivity. I'm assuming it'll come to PC, and most people believe it will also come to Xbox. Although maybe it's possible Sony extended the exclusivity for it, and maybe it's 2 years. The game did sell pretty well, but that's a game I haven't finished. It's one of the few games I started this year and just didn't finish. And
so that's weird because it's one of the few games I started and actually did finish. So I really enjoyed it right until the end. I've spoken about that before.
Yeah. And you guys can tell Jez is a little bit tired. He's tired, Jez, on a Saturday.
I'm a sleepy boy. It's late here. It's 9 p.m. on a Saturday. And this week has just been horrible. So I am ready to tomorrow I'm just going to lie in bed all day and do nothing, I think.
Ooh, that sounds great. Well, Gunstar says that he loves us and that he's feeling very happy today. And I did see a picture that Gunstar posted. Did you see he got stung by a wasp? And his hand.
Oh yeah,
got,
I did see that.
Super huge.
That was I saw that. That was grim.
Yeah.
Wasps are serious business.
Splatum says, I bought the 48-inch CX OLED, and then afterwards read reviews. It's the best TV to have for new consoles. Most people would agree that, yeah, the LG OLED, like CX line, or like the C9s if you have it, but are basically the best TVs for gaming. Not necessarily the best for monitors. Like they only go up to 120 hertz. Obviously, there's a lot of monitors that go a little bit higher than that. But when you look at like ratings and stuff like that, like websites, they're universal praise for gaming, and that's what I'm essentially going to be using it for, mostly gaming, and then watching like, like stuff like Netflix on it. So it's a great TV. I love my B8. It's one of the best purchases I made, and I think Jez was even telling me that he's got a little buyer's remorse for buying his QLED.
Yeah, I bought a QLED because it was cheap, and like I never know which country I'm going to be in, if I'm going to be in England or Germany. So I didn't want to buy something too expensive. I was going to go back to Germany in the short term. So but my issue is space. Like I don't have enough space on my wall for anything bigger than, like, this is 43-inch. I think I probably could squeeze the 48-inch LG CX in here, but it would be a tight fit. I just need to wait till like they can get 120 hertz on the 43 inches, I think, or just get my own bloody place. So something else on the to-do list.
Yeah, something.
But oh well, we'll figure it out.
I can't wait for this gen to start. I'm gonna have a badass TV. The PS5 and Series X was to be great consoles. Oh man, gaming so good. It's like your viral tweet, Jez. PS5 is good. Series Xbox is good. Nintendo's good. PC's good. Gaming's good. Look at Jez Corden going viral on Twitter. I never go
viral.
I never go viral.
Going viral. What? You never tweet though.
Yeah, that is true. I don't really think people care about my innermost thoughts. Like I just don't really have a lot of things to share on Twitter. That's kind of my my whole issue with it. RDX Devin Nunes says, "Hey, everyone, get out and vote." That is your right. We have the elections coming up, and coming up, and it's your right as as an American to go vote for who you want to see lead the country. So make sure you do that if you're so inclined. Paul Garvin says, love the show. Listen almost every time you're on. Is Halo 5 going to get the Xbox Series X treatment? Also, is the Series X Ethernet true gigabyte port? Jez, can you answer that? I don't think Halo 5 is getting the Series X treatment. So I'll answer that. Unless, Jez, you know any different.
I'd assume it's going to have some kind of Xbox Series X benefits, surely.
Well, probably just like whatever it can do in back compat, but I don't think they're updating it like the Coalition's updating Gears 5 or like Playground's updating Forza Horizon 4 or Sea of Thieves, Rare's updating Sea of Thieves.
Isn't it already? Oh, hang on. What did he say? Halo 5?
Yeah, Halo 5.
Oh, I immediately just assumed he was talking about Halo Infinite. Yeah, I don't think Halo 5 is going to get anything special, but who knows? It depends how easy it is. But I think like 343 is probably all hands on deck. Let's fix Halo Infinite because, that is the big missing piece of this whole puzzle is where's Halo Infinite at,
That is true.
So,
and do you know anything about the Ethernet port in the Series X, if it's a true gigabit port?
I have no idea. I have no way of testing that because obviously I don't have a gigabyte internet speed here, and so I can't. I literally just cannot test it. I've got my I do have it hooked up to Ethernet. Maybe there is some way I can test it.
Well, you've been doing your best to be Digital Foundry these past couple weeks. You got the frame rate analyzer. You got thermal imaging camera. I mean, Jez was Digital Foundry.
Does Digital Foundry do thermal imaging too?
I don't think they have, but I mean, like, you're all like getting up in the specs, look with the magnifying glass, like, look at this.
Yeah, it's got to be thorough if you want people to read your stuff, instead of uploading, Xbox Series X gameplay at 1080p because your company doesn't have 4K capture support for some reason. But
right.
it is what it is.
Living Flame says, wait, but Rand, isn't Sony leaving money on the table with Final Fantasy VII exclusivity? Is it possible for them to make their money back waiting longer? Oh, man. That whole leaving money on the table thing kind of reared to its ugly head yesterday when Phil Spencer said he doesn't need PlayStation. for the Bethesda games,
Ooh.
which is going to be one of the big we've kind of been. It's been a topic. Essentially, it's been one of those things that people are going to speculate on until either an official answer comes out. But we got some pretty good statements from Phil. And Splatum says he also got a Bose soundbar and a subwoofer to get great sound with his new TV. And it cost him a small fortune. I just use my Astray 50s for everything. Although I might be looking at getting a new headset moving forward. So, yeah, you know what? With all that said, we're going to talk about the games we're going to be playing, the games we've played this past week. But, we do have a lot of topics here. Obviously, Jez has had the Series X for I don't know how long. He can talk pretty much freely about it. So we'll delve into his preview of the system. There's obviously all of Phil's comments about Bethesda and Halo Infinite, and we have to talk about the Halo Infinite thing because I don't like the idea of it potentially being split up, and I think maybe there's a potential that it will. The Dirt 5 drama and like the Yakuza drama with Series S and like all this stuff. There's so much stuff here to talk about. So if you're enjoying the show, make sure you hit the like button, the subscribe button, share it out on social media. And we're going to talk about the games we played. So, Jez, have you played anything new on the Series X that you want to talk about?
Not especially. I've still been I have access to a 5-hour demo of Yakuza Like a Dragon, which is what I wrote a preview on last week. And it's it only gives you access to a few chapters, but the game's so fun. I've just been playing those chapters over and over again for a significant portion of this week, just trying to learn the systems and figure things out and playing on a higher difficulty as well. I was never really into Yakuza before, but Like a Dragon feels like a really good introduction to the franchise for people who are new to it, and kind of getting into it now. Also downloaded Yakuza 0, so I'm going to give that a try as well, which currently isn't locked. But I also played Empire of Sin this week, if you've heard of that game.
Yes, I have heard of that game.
So I can't really talk about it because it's under embargo, but Empire of Sin is an upcoming... it's like a crime simulator, basically. It's set in 1920s Chicago, or some, inspired by Chicago or whatever. Your home turf ran. Mm-hmm. So you got Tommy guns and Prohibition era and Al Capone and all that kind of stuff. And basically you start from the bottom and grow up a crime syndicate in a sort of simulator, turn-based strategy sort of way. That's coming to Xbox One, PC, PS4 in, I believe, December. Or, I want to say December, or maybe it's late November. I'm not sure, but it's coming out this year, and I should have a preview of that up next week or the week after. I can't remember exact bargain date, but yeah, I played that as well. But that's about it, man. As I say, last week was really busy, so I haven't really been playing too much. I am having Overwatch withdrawals though, because I still don't have access to Overwatch on the box, and I need my Overwatch.
You need your Overwatch. Apache says he want to make Jezzicato a meme. Jezzicato. Like you made Randall Tomato a meme, which God, I see everywhere now. I don't know how you were able to pull that off, but you did.
Oh man.
But you did. I'm literally a meme on my own channel, and every time I reply to somebody always comes in with the gif of either me pulling a Series X out of my ass, or the one where it's there's no need to be upset or whatever, or the bouncing tomatoes.
So good.
You literally turned me into a gigantic meme, and I feel like it's only fair that I return and turn you into a meme. I mean, you even have a website up where people can buy Randall Tomato socks and stuff?
I did. I bought some Randall Tomato socks. Oh my god. They're really good quality too.
Are they?
But yeah, they are good quality. Yeah, and they're very warm and snug, and high in vitamin C. So I've never spent so much money to troll someone in my life, but my god, was it worth it?
Did you only buy the socks, or did you get the pillow and the stickers?
Oh no, I only bought the socks this time. But I'm gonna when that Teespring is still up. So if you want to buy some Randall Tomato socks, And all the profits will be donated to charity. You know, search for it on Twitter. I think it's teespring.com/. The Xbox 2, maybe.
Well, it's on your Twitter too, so
It's on my Twitter.
you just
somewhere,
gotta
yeah.
scroll and look. But yeah, if you wanna own some Randall Tomato stuff, there's a pillow, there's like some socks and things, and all the profits go to charity. So
Yeah.
I mean,
We're
shout out
gonna
to
do
everybody.
Able
How many
Gamers,
people have bought stuff so far from there? Are you surprised that people actually wanted to wear me on their feet?
Well, I put it up. I put it up because I wanted to buy the socks to troll you and to ruin your day, because I'm mean like that. But yeah, people were actually buying them, so I was just like, oh, okay, well, fair enough. I think it's like 20-ish sales, like 18 or 19 or something.
That's crazy.
So it is crazy. It's a fair amount of people bought some Randall tomato socks and stickers and stuff like that. So, you know, gotta love it, man. That's a bit of good old capitalism for you.
Yeah. Shout out to Eric Popowich. He says, "Neighborhood Nintentard here. Xbox looking better than PlayStation. Love y'all." You know, I don't know. Is it just me, Jazz, or is like the console war just kind of like amping up to degrees that haven't been seen in a little bit? Like every single day, it just seems like there's people just sniping at one another. And I saw John Littleman basically say like, you know, he's almost had it with Twitter with all the personal attacks because, you know, like people don't like digital. The PlayStation fans don't like Digital Foundry anymore for whatever reason. You know, even though they loved Digital Foundry last gen, but now that they're, you know, talking good about Xbox, like they're biased and they're bought out by Microsoft. And, you know, like the fact that like Dirt 5, you know, was like people were like, this looks like a 360 game and all this stuff. It's like, is it always been like this, or do you notice it because of the prevalence of social media now compared to, you know, 7 years ago or even back in like 2005?
It's like it was like this in 2013. I remember, you know, when the whole like, you know, it's because it's a new generation, you know. I think there's a lot of reasons to be salty in like both camps, and people are just being dicks to each other over plastic, which is just comedy to me because I could not care less, you know. You know, play where you want to play, and then leave people alone where they want to play. You know, it's so strange to me, so tribal and primitive. You know, but whatever. You know, some people just sort of feel like they have to do that, I guess, to find some form of happiness or something. I don't know.
Yeah, a lot of people put their kind of
know.
emotional well-being or they identify their self-worth with the brand. So it's just yeah, it's just funny. Like I just get on every day, and I have a lot of people muted. Like I will see, you know, people on Twitter that argue back and forth, and I just mute them because I don't want to see that stuff in my timeline. I'm not saying. I mean, I can be a little negative, obviously. I'll criticize Xbox when needed. Like I will criticize Xbox in this podcast with a certain topic, but most of the time, like gaming is like, I don't know, everything to me. It's like my hobby. Like I love it. It's given me so much, and like I'd much rather be positive about everything going on than sit there and be completely negative and attack a console that I don't necessarily play on just because. Like,
yeah, I was like, I don't get it, man. Like, there's so much good stuff to look forward to. And it's like I see people. When I see like PlayStation fans attacking Dirt 5, it's like, do you not realize that's going to be on PlayStation 2? It's not an Xbox exclusive, guys. You know, and stuff like that. And every console's got something to look forward to right now. Like right now, I'm looking forward to like World of Warcraft Shadowlands on PC, and that's another game I've been playing. Been back on my World of Warcraft kick. So the Shadowlands coming out on PC, and I'll probably play Empire of Sin on PC just because, you know, mouse controls, you know. And then you've got like 2 Monster Hunter exclusives on Switch next year, and then, you know, you've got all the stuff that's coming to Xbox for Bethesda and all that sort of stuff. And then you look at PlayStation, and, you know, they've already announced God of War, and you know there's going to be another Last of Us game, and just all the stuff that Sony does, which is, you know, industry leading in a lot of ways. There's no need to be so salty about all this stuff. Just
Yeah.
just
Well,
enjoy it.
I see a lot of people say, you know, there's it's like sports teams, but like, you know, I'm a fan of, you know, obviously I'm from Chicago, right? So my sports teams that I love: Chicago Bears, the Chicago White Sox, the you know, Chicago Blackhawks. Although I'm not that much into NHL hockey. What else we got? Obviously the Bulls, but like I never hated the rivals. You know, like I didn't hate the Packers and get on and blast the Packers on social media every single day because of something Aaron Rodgers did, or I didn't, you know, hate the Indiana Pacers or the Miami Heat. Now, the only team I truly kind of did hate was the Chicago Cubs. I can't stand the Chicago Cubs, and maybe that's because in Chicago you can either like the White Sox or you can like the Cubs. You can't like both. It's a very kind of tribal thing here in Chicago. And if you're not from here, you wouldn't understand. Although maybe if you're from New York, you might get it with the Mets and the Yankees. But I was like literally brought up by my grandpa to hate the Chicago Cubs. I hate the Cubs. And like, I don't know what else it is. It's kind of been ingrained in me since like, you know, I was a kid, because we would go to all the White Sox games. I would go to like 15 White Sox games, and you know, never went to a Cubs game. My cousin was a Cubs fan, and I hated hanging around with them because, ew, how could he like the Cubs? You know, like you know, bad people like the Cubs. And obviously, you grow up and you grow up, and I don't hate the Cubs, but like when I was a kid, and that's kind of my point. When I was a kid, I hated the Cubs. Like I hated them so much. But then you obviously you get older and you realize it's all just stupid stuff anyways. So
that's funny.
And I kind of look at the people that do that stuff on social media as children, because that's kind of what they are. So they're just giant man babies, essentially.
I saw
that never
like
grew up.
Yeah, I saw a campaign account earlier that was like boycott Xbox, boycott Bethesda, and there was some just obviously ran by like one dude who was just at replying random people, and he had like 3 followers or something, and he was just at replying random people with all caps, boycott Xbox, boycott Bethesda, like.
Oh yeah, I
so,
saw that
like,
today.
salty.
Yeah, I saw that guy today. What a pathetic loser. Like really, he even
it's
had his banner like
mad.
boycott Bethesda. Well, that's the thing. That's also the thing lately, is that the Bethesda never made a good game. All their games are horrible. You know, like a lot of people coming in with their damage control, because I think they're starting to realize the writing on the wall that we've been talking about. But we're gonna get to that after I kind of finish talking about the game I played. So what you're seeing on screen is a game that finally came to Xbox. I played it last year on the Nintendo Switch. It's in Game Pass right now, so if you don't have to buy it, you can just download it. And I recommend everybody watching this podcast or listening to this later, do yourself a favor and download Katana Zero on Game Pass, because it is freaking amazing. It is such a good game. It's kind of got that mix of like Ninja Gaiden to it, where you're essentially kind of a samurai who has this ability to slow down time and plan his attacks. So as you're watching, you see like I'll die over and over, and that's the thing. Like it's so twitchy, and you got to do the moves really fast, and you die, it's instantly restart, because he has this power to like he's a precog. He can see the future. So what you're watching is like him planning out in his head how he's going to kill everybody in a room, and then once he completes it, he does it. But he could die 100 times until he figures out the right path. Like it is so fun, and it's also like it's really short. It's like a 3 to 4 hour game. It's honestly that good. Like I would give it like almost probably a 9. Like it was one of my favorite games of last year. And if you got Game Pass, you can try it out for free. It is not a Metroidvania game. It's a very linear experience, and it has a really interesting story too. Although really there's no voice acting, it'll keep you like on your toes. Like you'll be leaning in your chair trying to figure out what's going on. Have you seen any of the stuff from this game, Jez?
Nah, I'm just watching it on your stream now. Like, I did hear about it, and it got a lot of praise for how stylish it is and how good the combat apparently is. So I will definitely be playing that at some point.
Oh yeah, I mean
But
like
it's probably locked out right now for me.
yeah, like you can so you have regular enemies that melee and you just attack them with your sword. You roll behind them. When you roll, you're invincible. You can pick up like items and throw them that'll instantly kill. Like everything's like an insta kill in this. You kill enemies instantly with one hit, and they can kill you instantly with one hit. And then you get enemies with like guns, but then you have the ability to slow down time and hit the bullet back at them to kill them, Jez. It's crazy. It's really really good. So I
Yeah, I'll definitely check that out at some point.
yeah, I definitely recommend everybody check out the game because it's absolutely phenomenal.
I totally screwed up, man. Like I as soon as the Xbox Series X unit got here, I gave my Xbox One X to my younger cousin because she's still on the 2013 Xbox One. So I was like, yeah, I'll give my One X to my cousin. But then I was like, oh, but a lot of the games are locked out at the moment for the preview program. So I haven't got access to a lot of these new games like Star Wars Squadrons and Katana Zero and stuff like that. It's driving me up the wall. So I totally jumped the gun and got rid of my One X before I should have done. But first world problems to the extreme.
Afonso Connor says, "I'm from Gary, Indiana. I like to comment on all the kids on social media. I appreciate honesty." Well, thank you for the support. So with that said, Katana Zero.
People in chat are arguing about Coke and Pepsi now, and which soda's better. And William Hillman says Coke has all the good exclusives.
Honestly, what do you prefer, Coke or Pepsi? What do you think which one's better?
Man, I can't tell the difference, man. I can't. What is the difference? I can't really tell. Like because obviously I don't really drink Coke or Pepsi unless I'm mixing it with vodka or cheap whiskey or something, which kind of defeats the point of choosing Coke or Pepsi. And I always drink Diet Coke and Diet Pepsi, which doesn't taste anywhere near as good as regular Coke or regular Pepsi. So I just don't know, man. I don't know. I like Mountain Dew though.
I mean, I love Mountain Dew as well. That's kind of my go-to drink. But if I had to choose between both, I always enjoyed Coke way more than I enjoyed Pepsi. But that's just me. If I had to choose like what drink to have, it would definitely be Mountain Dew. Whether it's regular Mountain Dew or Mountain Dew Code Red or Mountain Dew, like what was the orange one? They had like a Livewire, I think it was. Like I love Mountain Dew, and that's what I used to drink all the time. But like right now, I drop pop. I drink only Propel energy water. Right now, I got a Propel water that's watermelon. Like I really like their watermelon and their mandarin orange. So like every month, I basically buy like 8 cases of Propel water to drink because I'm done with drinking pop, essentially. And yes, I say pop. I know that's what we say here in the Midwest. It's pop. It's not soda. So, whatever.
That's what we say in England too. Pop, not soda. That's an American thing.
Yeah. So with the games we're playing out of the way, make sure you guys hit the like and subscribe button and share this out on Twitter so more people can check out the show. We got a lot of things here to talk about, man. I don't even know where you even want to begin. But I guess, we can begin with your Series X preview, Jez. Since you've been playing it for a long time, you can freely talk about it. Give us your final thoughts on the Series X.
Well, these aren't final thoughts really because we're still on the preview branch. The dashboard's not actually finished yet. So, like, for example, I mentioned on, some people were asking me about the dynamic animated themes, right?
Which look really cool, by the way.
Yeah,
I want one of those.
So, like, what we have right now is like this sort of wave pattern which sort of transmits diagonally across the screen. It looks really nice, but you can't change anything about that. Like the option to mess with dynamic themes is there, but you press it and nothing happens. And I think this is one of the surprises they're saving for later is, how dynamic themes are going to work because we don't have access to them yet. So these aren't final thoughts because we're not on final hardware yet. We're still in the preview. We're still in the preview program, still in the preview branch and stuff like that. But to me, it just kind of feels like all the things that were disappointing about the Xbox One are sort of gone now. You know, you've got like all the super rapid load speeds and sort of like streamlined dashboard which loads instantly. There's no more of that sluggish dashboard. It's all gone, and like everything loads up instantly, and it just feels a lot more fluid and responsive, and the experience just feels refined across the board. Like once you have an Xbox Series X, it's going to be hard to go back to Xbox One consoles because just because of the speed of everything is just faster, more fluid, more responsive, and that sort of thing. You know, the controller's better too. I really like the design, and in person it looks nowhere near as big as it does in photographs. When I think about it now, the way Microsoft marketed it as this giant thing towering over the ocean, you know, do you remember that trailer from the Game Awards?
Yeah.
I think back to that now, and I think that gave like a almost erroneous impression of how big it is. It's really not that big. Like once you actually look at it in person, you'll be surprised when you get your hands on it. It's like, oh, actually, it's not that big, you know. And it feels appropriately sized because, you know, it's packing PC-like specs, and you need a PC-like form factor to, you know, expel all that heat and make sure it's cooled adequately. And judging by our thermal imaging, it is adequately cooled, you know. Well, the heat coming out of the vent is significantly cooler than the heat coming out of the Xbox One X vent. And, you know, if you take a reading from deep inside the console, then obviously it'll be a bit different. But like the heat that actually comes out the other end is like much cooler than what you get with the Xbox One X, which is pretty rad. But Rand, the one thing that I'm still sort of like about is that we don't really have any new games to test on it yet.
Yeah,
we have Gears of War 5. I don't have 120 hertz TV, so
is that why you don't you regret buying the QLED?
Well, that and just the fact that I physically can't get a 43-inch 120 hertz panel, but I'm just saying, like, a lot of the visual enhancements, I think a lot of people just aren't going to be able to experience in 2020 because they're not going to have 120 hertz displays. Most people aren't going to have 120 hertz LG CX to play with this thing. So, like, as a 60 frames per second experience, a lot of those next gen features haven't materialized yet. Like, Gears of War 5 does have ray tracing surfaces a lot more than it does on the Xbox One X. Like a lot of the metallic objects and objects that are supposed to be wet or icy, they've got like higher definition reflections than they did on the One X. But it's also kind of like, do I want to go back and play Gears 5 campaign again? Not really, not so soon after playing it already before. So what you're left with is basically right now in the preview program, you're just left with Gears Tactics, which does look stunning. But even then, it's kind of like, well, I reviewed that last year. Well, not last year, this year. I reviewed that a few months ago.
Came out in April.
It came out in April, so it's not even a year ago. And it's kind of like, do I want to go back and play that again? Not really. You know, it was so recent. So I'm hoping that when it comes to the review period, because this isn't the review period, this is the preview period. I'm hoping that when it comes to the review period, we do get a look at Watch Dogs and Assassin's Creed Valhalla and hopefully Cyberpunk and stuff like that, and really get a look at some AAA new next gen games, because I ran Gears Tactics on Ultra on my PC, and it looks utterly stunning on the Series X. Like it really does. Like it looks and runs like a PC game on the Xbox Series X, which is it feels like a no compromises experience. I just want more examples of that, and I think like it's a problem every gen, where at the start of the gen, there's not that much that can really showcase the hardware. And I think I wrote in my preview, sorry, that there is a Halo-shaped hole in this whole proposition right now. So the hardware is a flawless symphony of engineering brilliance, like it really is. But the way the games have lined up and COVID and games delays and stuff like that, a lot is kind of riding on Watch Dogs, Assassin's Creed Valhalla, and I guess Cyberpunk. And Cyberpunk's already confirmed that their real next gen update isn't coming till next year anyway. So I'm just kind of like enjoying it for what it is for now, and then hoping that, you know, we see a bit more of that power delta come into play next year and beyond. So I love it. You know, it's a great console, and I still have another one pre-ordered. You know, so it's not like I got a free one from Microsoft and I'm not going to buy it as well, because, you know, I'm buying one for my brother, and I was going to buy one for myself as well if, you know, we didn't get review units, because these things are never guaranteed. So you know, I would have no regrets about buying this on day one, just because of the speed. If nothing else, right now the loading speeds are just, you know, really change the experience.
Yeah, you can't go backwards, right? Like, you can't go back to the Xbox One X and the Xbox One with their slow ass regular hard drives and their long load times. But I also we kind of hinted at it earlier. You became Digital Foundry a little bit and took some thermal imaging, because part of that whole fanboy FUD that was being spread a couple weeks ago or last week was the overheating issue, which, you know, we were involved in, or at least this podcast was involved in. But you grabbed the thermal imaging camera, and what can you say about how much the heat that it gives off in comparison to the One X right now?
Yeah, I mean, like, as I say, the thermal imaging camera, like, only gives us so much, because unlike the One X and the PlayStation 4, which we tested it against, it's like, it's a thicker system, so a lot of the heat is deeper inside. But what we can get a good idea of is how well it deals with that heat by measuring the airflow that comes out of the vent. And like, the heat that's comes out of the Xbox One X, that is like, it's pushing 60 Celsius, which is okay for PC components. Like, laptops and gaming PCs, like my old PC went up to like 80 Celsius, which is, it's starting to get a bit like, oh, that's kind of toasty, but it's not like shutdown sort of territory yet. But the air coming out of the Series X running Monster Hunter is like 35C, which is really low. You know, it's much lower than the air that comes out the PS4, and it's much lower than the air that comes out the Series X. But I am going to do some more thermal tests, maybe on more intensive games. Like, I'm going to try Gears 5 at 4K 60 and Gears Tactics at 4K 60. I think that'll probably push the system more than Monster Hunter World did. So I was testing. I wanted to test a game that hadn't been patched, that ran on both systems that I had access to, which is Monster Hunter World. Like, I got that on One X, and I got that on Series X, and it hadn't been patched. So I thought that'd be a good test, but maybe it's less of a good test than I thought. So I'll run those tests again with the Gears 5 and Gears Tactics, but it is significantly cooler, the air that comes out. So that was pretty impressive. And then, like, if we look at like the frame rate analysis on games with unlocked frame rates, like Monster Hunter World, and I'm going to download the Evil Within as well, because that had an unlocked frame rate, if I remember correctly. I'm going to, you know, they get definitive, obvious benefits. Like, Monster Hunter World was a great example, because, you know, not only does it get the benefit of faster frames, it also gets the full benefits of quick resume, because you don't get kicked out of the game when it's idle. Like, if you're playing Destiny, for example, and you put it in quick resume, the server will eventually kick you out, and then you'll have to go through the menu again. But games like Monster Hunter, you just go into offline mode or whatever. So that was my mentality for testing those games. But it's just an all-round better system, you know.
Yeah,
It just really is.
it's like leagues better than the Xbox One and the Xbox One X.
Like you can really feel the CPU being like such a massive bottleneck to the old systems, and now that that's gone, how much of a benefit it is, and the SSD as well. Like I kind of took that for granted, like because I play a different set of games on PC than I do on Xbox. Like I tend to play like strategy games or CRPGs or MMOs on PC, where like they benefit from mouse and keyboard. And then on Xbox, I tend to play like your action adventure games, your shooters and stuff like that, which are fine with gamepad and for playing on TV while you're sitting back away from the TV and stuff like that. And because of that, I always took for granted how much of an improvement having an SSD is, because I never really play the same games across both systems. But when when you used to play Monster Hunter World, and like some of the areas in that game take anywhere up to 2 minutes to load, and then for it to load up in mere seconds, and then while you wait for your friends, they're still loading in, and you like half kill the monster and they're still loading in. You can really get a sense of how much of an improvement it is. And I don't think anyone's going to be disappointed in their purchase, even though there's like not a huge amount of games this year that'll really showcase the 12 teraflops. They'll come, but there's just so many other benefits to having the system this year that it's totally worth it, in my view.
Well, I can't wait to get my hands on it. And yeah, thanks for your preview, Jez. I read your article. Like it was really informative, and it's
thanks, buddy.
It's only like what we less than a month away. Yeah, I mean it's October 17th.
November 10th. Yeah.
Systems come out, November 10th. So not much longer yet. And the next thing we're going to talk about is the launch lineup, because I do have some very choice things to say, but I want to kind of read out some of the super chats that people have been, donating to support the channel here. Eric Popovich says that Coke is best with the booze. It's not rum and Pepsi, it's rum and Coke. Percolator says, the question is for both of you. Why is it I keep on hearing nobody wants Game Pass because they want to own the games, but yet you can still buy the games with a discount? Nobody brings that up. That is a good point. True. Like, people are afraid, I think, that eventually, because right now you can get them in the subscription, or you could buy them. And if you're a Game Pass member, you can get a discount. I think some people are worried that eventually you won't be able to outright buy the game. That'll only be available in Game Pass. And then once it's removed from Game Pass, well, the game's just gone forever. But I really can't see a scenario like that happening. Can you?
No, I don't think so. Like devs will always want to sell their games outright. And and there's also like there will always be platforms that offer people the option to buy them outright. Like Microsoft, with this system, you can have the best of both worlds. You can have people who enjoy the rolling subscription, and Microsoft are always putting like new perks into Game Pass too, like the Funimation thing and the Spotify sub and the Discord Nitro. So like they're trying to add value to Game Pass beyond the games. And I'm sure like as the years go by, we'll start seeing like, you get more cosmetic unlocks if you subscribe to Game Pass, or you get more this if you subscribe to Game Pass, and all sorts of other additional benefits in games. I think we've already seen that with Sea of Thieves. Like you can get some skins if you subscribe to Game Pass, and you get like some skins for Smite if you subscribe to Game Pass, and stuff like that. So Game Pass will add value beyond simply accessing the games. And even if like you look at Spotify as an example, like literally everyone uses streaming service for music now, basically. But like we've seen vinyl resurge, and people still want to buy music to own. They still want to buy music to own. They still want to buy collector's editions. They still want to support those artists directly. And people still buy Blu-rays. Like I still buy Blu-rays and stuff, even of shows that I do have access to on Netflix. Like I wanted to. They came out with a Twin Peaks collector's edition of all 3 seasons, and I was like, "Yep, buy that straight away." Even though I'm probably not going to use the discs anytime soon. If you build it, they'll come. A lot of the time.
Yeah.
And I don't think we'll see that happen where
No.
you can't buy games outright.
And Game
I don't
Pass
think so.
and Game Pass isn't going to be like Spotify where like every game's in it. So of course games are always going to be sold for people that want to buy them. Game Pass is just something else for people that, want to just don't want to buy everything. I mean, there's not a lot of people. I mean, most people only buy like a couple games a year. But with Game Pass, you can essentially try out like a whole bunch of different stuff. So, yeah.
It creates a new market. It creates a new kind of gamer. Like Rand was saying, like how do you convert someone who only buys FIFA and Call of Duty into a gamer who experiments a bit more? How do you do that? Well, you give them those games for free. And it's my like Yakuza example. Like I can try all of the Yakuza games through Game Pass without having to buy them, and it's turned me into a fan of the franchise now. And then Like a Dragon isn't going to be on Game Pass, so I'm going to buy that outright. So thanks to Game Pass, it has turned me into a fan of the Yakuza franchise, and now Sega's earned my custom. So there's loads of benefits to Game Pass that aren't really. You can't really simplistically compare it directly to Netflix because Netflix doesn't have an upsell, it doesn't have microtransactions, and it doesn't have merchandise, and well, not to the same level. Like, if you become a fan of a game franchise, a lot of people will buy in beyond the game. They'll buy the skins, they'll buy merchandise. Like I bought Monster Hunter like statues and the little dragons, and I bought all the skins just because I wanted to give Capcom as much money as possible because I was so grateful for this game they created. I have 500 hours played in Monster Hunter, man. I've never spent that many hours playing a console game in my life, But it's all about making new markets because, as we've talked about before on the podcast, the console hardware install base just isn't growing. So how do you make it grow? Is that you change people's habits potentially, and that's what Game Pass is all about.
Well, I don't know. Did you say that? But didn't you see that Japanese analyst that said the PS5 will sell between 200 and 300 million PS5s in 6 years and 700 million total by when it's all said and done? Did you see that analyst?
I did see that. That was a very, very, very bold prediction.
His whole thing was like esports is huge and PlayStation will dominate it, and 400 million people in the esports scene will like buy the console, and esports is bigger than the NBA and all this stuff. And I'm like, what are you smoking, bro? Because pass it over here. Yeah, you need to go check out his extensive thoughts on why the PS5 will sell 700. Like, I don't even think if they could produce 700 million consoles. You know what I mean? It's just crazy. It's just crazy. Aquaman wants to know, can Game Pass subscriptions alone financially support all 23 Xbox Game Studios on top of being profitable in and of itself? That is an interesting question.
The answer is no. But as we discussed earlier, games aren't like TV shows. They have an upsell. So it's like you will get Halo Infinite, but then you will also upsell microtransactions. So the value of a single game in Game Pass is worth way more than just the subscription fee. Just the simple act of having people inside your ecosystem is a vehicle for upsell, which is kind of like when you're sitting at a restaurant and a good restaurant who trains their staff properly, they'll come back. Well, it's a bit different actually in America, because don't restaurants in America give you drinks for free?
Yeah, they'll give you free water, but I guess it depends. Like casinos will give free drinks because they want you spending money at the tables. But like if you go to a restaurant, you'll get free water. But like if you order like a soda, like a pop or a beer, no, those will cost money.
Okay, well, yeah, okay. Well, I used to work in a restaurant, and the restaurant made most of its money from the drinks. And they'll teach their waiters to constantly come over and say, "Can I get you anything else? Can I get you another drink? Can I get you a beer? Can I get you a whiskey?" Because the margins on liquids is so good. That's the stuff they want to sell you, and that's kind of the same sort of mentality with the microtransaction, right? And I'm not saying like Microsoft's going to bake every game unnecessarily with microtransactions, but there are things beyond microtransactions too. Like Bethesda games, they have a massive merchandising empire. Like the whole Fallout iconography is perfect for merchandise, like the bobblehead clothes and toys and all that sort of stuff. And I'm just saying there is value added beyond the subscription that maybe isn't the same as maybe Netflix, or not to the same degree. Like no one's going to run out and buy like a t-shirt with, I don't know, name a Netflix show. Like
Stranger Things.
Stranger Things is actually a good one for merchandising, but like one of the cooking shows or something. You're not gonna buy a t-shirt for a cooking show, you know.
Yeah.
But gaming's a bit different. Like there's a lot of more ways that can add revenue with a game. Accessories and clothes and toys and microtransactions and DLC. Maybe they put the DLC not in Game Pass and make you buy it separately, like, you know, but Microsoft's even shown willingness to put that in there. But, you know, once you've got like that many gamers in your ecosystem, it becomes a moot point anyway.
Yeah.
Because there's so many people who are paying a subscription that you just sort of hit this critical mass where you're earning more money than you necessarily need. So that's why Xbox Live Gold was such, you know, a pivotal moment in the gaming industry. It was like they found a way to get past this barrier of the console hardware being really cheap and unprofitable, and they were like had to rely entirely on sales of games, which were being the profits get cut up 1,000 different ways in retail distribution. And they were like, well, what if we had a subscription as well? And then, you know, it became this massive business that was so good, they were even willing to take a $2 billion write-down on the Red Ring of Death situation because the business was just so good. Yeah. So it's interesting, but I wouldn't worry about Microsoft's finances. Yeah. Is basically what
I don't worry about Netflix's finances. I don't worry about Amazon's. I don't worry about Microsoft's. Like I just want to play the games and watch the content. So, RDX Devin Nunes says, "Hey, Dirt tweeted out Dealer's video on Dirt 5. I did see that. Did you see that, Jez? Because like Ryan McCaffrey made a video for IGN. He wasn't impressed with Dirt 5, but the thing was he like captured it in 1080p 30. So." Obviously, like YouTube compression and capturing at that, yeah, like it doesn't look good, and you know, Dealer kind of like, you know, told people that, and Dirt Twitter basically retweeted it and was like, yeah, good video. Tylenol says Xbox Onslaught incoming next year and beyond with Halo, Forza, Starfield, Hellblade. Whoa, what is that? Is that you? Did we lose Jez? Okay, I think we might have lost Jess. So I'll just keep.
Bloody girlfriend called me.
I was like wondering, like, what the heck was that? Is that your ringtone?
That's my ringtone. Yeah. Jeez. Like there might be some anime fans in the chat who recognize that ringtone.
Jeez.
Like, let me know on Twitter if you recognize it. But yeah, it's my ringtone. It's a pretty loud boy because I want to hear it. But
I mean, yeah, that is very loud. Tylenol says. Xbox Onslaught incoming next year and beyond with Halo, Forza, Starfield, Hellblade, etc. Do you think to keep up Sony will release games in parts like God of War's Ragnarok's supposed quick around? No, like I mean, we don't know if God of War is like a lesser game than God of War the last one. Like God of War 1 or God of War was like a 25 to 30 hour game. We don't know if God of War 2 is going to be 15 hours. And Sony has a lot of their own deals that they haven't announced yet. Like, you know, we know they have the Deathloop game exclusive and Ghostwire Tokyo and Final Fantasy 16. They'll have a bunch of indie games exclusives, and they'll probably have other games that they haven't talked about from their own first party as well as from second party. So they have their own plan. They have their own games. So it's gonna be good. It's gonna be really fun when it starts going. When Xbox is just dropping games and PlayStation is dropping games. Sylar says there will always be some kind of hardware malfunction for any console day one. What's the big deal over people complaining? Well, I mean, I hope I don't get a malfunctioning Series X. Creaky Leg says, just wanted to shout out a great next-gen ready TV. I recommend the LG NanoCell 85 series, 49-inch for $600, 4K 120 hertz, all HDR10, Dolby Vision. Cheers. Thank you. JD, he said, JD here, love the show. Can't wait for Xbox Series X. I would like to see if the Division 2 doubles in frame rate via backwards compatibility. Did you try out Division 2 and back compat, Jez, or was it not available?
I think it is available, but I haven't tried it yet. I'm actually literally just trying the Evil Within now, and it's locked to 30, sadly.
Yeah.
But maybe they can unlock that frame rate now.
Maybe they could, but I don't know. I don't really see them going back and doing it. Vic the Brick Gaming says, hey, Jez, did you ever test to see if you could disconnect the power cord of the Series X with the quick resume cache, get wiped out, or will it be saved?
It is saved. I did test that, and Yakuza 0 loaded up from quick save. I actually tested that by accident just now because I unplugged my system earlier to move some plugs around, and then after I plugged it back in, Yakuza 0 loaded up straight away from quick resume. So yeah, it stays in memory somehow. I don't know how that works. I don't know the technical reality of that, but it works. It does indeed work.
Yeah.
Sorry.
I was just going to say, Soma King says, probably a daft question, but when xCloud gets browser support to work on iOS, could it also work on the PlayStation console browsers?
No, that's the kicker, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of like... and it kind of comes back to what Phil was saying about not taking games away from people. Like, a lot of people took that as a vague hint that the games will still come to PlayStation, but I didn't take it that way. I took it in the sense that Xbox games are more accessible than any other game because they are broadly available on Android, and they will be broadly available on web browsers and iOS in the future. And that sort of begs the question, doesn't it? How many browsers will they support? Is the PlayStation browser built on the Chromium? And if it is, does that mean that you could get xCloud through your PlayStation through the web browser? I think that is potentially something that could happen.
I don't really think Microsoft would care, because that would mean if that person's using their PlayStation to use the web browser to play games, that means they're subscribed to Game Pass.
Yeah, exactly.
So I don't think they would care.
Microsoft would totally be down with that. You know, I mean, you don't put xCloud on a web browser if you aren't expecting people to play it everywhere and anywhere they want. So I think, like, and you can as well play xCloud using a PlayStation controller on Android. So I think the support is probably there, and I think there's a high chance that maybe that will actually work.
Well, what about Stadia? Can you use the PlayStation 5's or PlayStation 4's browser to play Stadia right now on it? Because that has a web browser, right?
Does Stadia have a web browser?
I mean, that's how you play it on the PC right now, isn't it? It's through a web browser.
Yeah, but it's isn't it locked to Chrome OS?
Oh, is it? Oh, I didn't know. I don't really know much about Google Stadia. I don't think anybody does. Right?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know about that, actually. Maybe I'm wrong. But I thought it was locked to Chrome OS.
It could be.
For now.
And Chase says PlayStation is going to sell more, but Xbox is going to show the most profit at the end of the day. His opinion. And iSeller says YouTube millions at Phil Restaurant confirmed bone cream on the menu. We got to get a bone cream emote, but I don't know. I don't know how we're going to.
I don't know how to make one that isn't like in some way offensive.
Yeah. So let's talk about the launch games, because we kind of mentioned it before. You were talking about how one of the disappointments for you in the preview program was, like, while the hardware is amazing, you didn't really have a lot of next-gen games to test. It was mostly backwards compatibility, right? Which, to be fair,
yep.
I don't know if you could really expect a lot of new games in the preview program, because everyone's still trying to finish their games for launch, and especially with, like, you know, the pandemic being the thing, not really an optimal time for game developers to make their games, you know?
Yeah, it's just like I'm not saying third parties should bear that burden.
True.
I'm saying Microsoft should bear that burden. They
Well,
should have had games lined up, ready to launch with this console. And in my view, and like I'm sure Microsoft would say, it doesn't matter this year because they're not going to be able to manufacture enough consoles to meet demand anyway.
yeah.
So like from a pragmatistic standpoint, it doesn't really matter that they don't have an amazing launch lineup because they're going to sell out regardless. But from a purely nostalgic, isn't this what a console launch is supposed to be like, arbitrary standard, which, is admittedly pointless to even discuss, but I just kind of wish that there would be something that would really showcase the hardware at launch.
Yeah. So
And
Microsoft announced that there's going to be 30 games fully optimized in Series X and S on the launch day. That doesn't include games launching a little bit later, like Black Ops Cold War, the Call of Duty game, or Destiny 2, which, weirdly enough, isn't getting upgraded for the next-gen consoles until December 8th. I thought that was going to be updated day one. So that was a little bit disappointing. And then, of course, Cyberpunk launches on November 19th, but won't have its Series X patch until sometime next year. And then there's the Medium exclusive, which comes on December 10th. But these are the 30 games. I'm just going to read it through really quickly. Assassin's Creed Valhalla, Borderlands 3, Bright Memory 1, Cuisine Royale, Dead by Daylight, Devil May Cry Special Edition, Dirt 5, Enlisted, Evergate, The Falconeer, Fortnite, Forza Horizon 4, Gears 5, Gears Tactics, Grounded, King Oddball, Maneater, Manifold Garden, NBA 2K21, Observer System Redux, Ori and the Will of the Wisp, Planet Coaster, Sea of Thieves, Tetris Effect Connected, The Tourist, War Thunder, Warhammer Chaos Bane Slayer Edition, Watch Dogs Legion, WRC 9, FIA World Rally Championship, Yakuza Like a Dragon, and yes, Your Grace. So those are the 30 games coming day one. All of them are essentially going to be optimized in some way, whether 4K Ultra HD, some of them with 120 frames like Dirt 5 and Gears 5's multiplayer and Ori and stuff like that. And a lot of these games are using smart delivery where, you get the next-gen version for free. Now, reading through that list, like you mentioned earlier in the show, man, there's a Halo-sized crater there. Because I'm going to say this, that is a very, very, very lacking launch lineup.
Yeah, it's not impressive.
It's not impressive at all. It is the opposite of impressive. There are certain words I could use to describe it that I'm not going to because I don't want to be mean. But like when Gears Tactics is the only new game from your first party, and it's also a game that you already released all the way back in April, and that's it, it's not a good look at all. I mean, yeah, it's great that Gears 5 is getting updated and Forza Horizon 4 is getting updated and Sea of Thieves is getting updated and all that stuff, but like, those are old games. And honestly, the Series X doesn't even have as good as a launch lineup as the Xbox One. I mean, the one had Rise, Son of Rome, and Dead Rising 3, and Killer Instinct, and Crimson Dragon, and
and it had Battlefield and Assassin's Creed Black Flag, didn't it?
Assassin's Creed Black Flag, and yeah, Battlefield 4 was there as well. I'm just looking at this list. Like the biggest game, obviously, is Assassin's Creed Valhalla, and it was smart of Ubisoft to move that game up because like that'll be a showcase for the console, and because there's really not that many new games, really here, it's probably going to sell a lot because people are going to come home with their system and be like, I want to see something that takes advantage of this system I just paid $500 for, and it's going to be Assassin's Creed. Man, it really hurts that Halo's not here. I mean, like, you see it in all the marketing and everywhere. Like, they relied on it to be here, and because it's not, it really exposes that their launch lineup is not very good. And it wasn't very good because they keep on saying it's their largest launch lineup ever in history because they have, all the backwards compatible games, but like, I mean, I'm still excited just because I love playing video games, but like I can't help but say, yeah, I'm a little disappointed by the number of new titles, especially from Microsoft's first party, that are new that are launching with the console. There's no other way around that. So,
Yeah, I think like it's just a kind of it's just symptomatic of this like we're still in this sort of lull period while we're waiting for all the the studios they acquired to finish up their previous obligations and stuff like that. Like Obsidian still has to make another DLC for Private Division before they're completely off the hook, and In Exile had to finish Wasteland 3, which is a multi-plat game as well, and they're apparently building DLC for that game too. So it's sort of like just sort of waiting. Some of the games that we got were just sort of incidental, like they were working on Grounded already, which is did kind of blow up over the summer, and now we're waiting for updates. And Minecraft Dungeons, which is a multi-plat, so maybe it kind of doesn't count, but we don't even have Flight Simulator, for a launch game, which is just weird.
I don't think Flight Sim was ever in the plans for Series X at launch. Everything relied on Halo, and I understand like some people are like, all I need is Assassin's Creed Valhalla and Cyberpunk, and those two games are huge games and they're gonna last a long time. But I'm just saying, like, for me, and I'm only speaking for myself as I always do, like I don't know, it reminds me a lot of the Xbox One X when the only new game Microsoft launched was Super Lucky's Tale. And just like Gears Tactics, it's not even a game from their own first party. It's a third party. It's a second party kind of studio deal. You know what I mean? Like Gears Tactics was made by Splash Damage. Splash Damage is owned by Stadia now, aren't they?
No,
or
they're part of that Layu deal with Tencent, aren't they?
Oh yeah. Well, who got bought out recently? Or something, or was Splash Damage have like an Splash Damage has like an exclusive Stadia game.
Are you thinking of Ruffian being bought by Rockstar?
Maybe it was another studio that begins with an S. I was thinking about maybe
Sumo
Digital, maybe, I don't know. Either way, yeah, the launch lineup not that great, but it's gonna pick up down the road. Like, you got all these studios, 2021, like, and beyond is going to be, with all the Bethesda and the first party games, there's going to be a ton of stuff. It's just like really, it's just really light for launch. Really, really light.
It's kind of also sort of indicative of the way the industry is sort of changing. Like, these consoles are like all x86 systems now. So like, even though they're calling it a new generation, it's still kind of part of the Xbox One generation. It's still got ERA as the development platform. It's still like, it's backwards compatible because it runs on ERA, which is the same as the Xbox One. And it's kind of like, we don't expect PC GPUs to have launch titles, for example, And like, there were people who, like, if they buy like an RTX graphics card, maybe they'll like look for a game that has ray tracing to test it out. But like, it's not like the RTX 3000 series cards had launch games associated with it. It's just kind of like a weird standard we have as what is a console tradition, But does that really matter anymore? It's kind of what I'm thinking.
Yeah.
Just playing devil's advocate, because I'm in your camp. Like, I would like there to be a big launch title. I liked coming home to Killer Instinct and trying out Rise and stuff like that, being blown away by the visuals. And I've still got all my old screenshots from when I played like Assassin's Creed Black Flag on it for the first time. But even those games were cross-generational,
Yeah.
And we knew a lot of these games were going to be cross-gen, and it's just it is what it is.
I mean, I'll be good. I'll be perfectly fine. I got tons of games to play in the back catalog, and games I'll play on PlayStation. But you can definitely tell like Halo was needed at launch, and with us mentioning Halo, we're gonna transition to the big juicy topics, the Phil Bethesda comments. But I'm gonna start with this Halo one, right? Because since we're talking about Halo and Halo missing launch. Stephen Totillo over at Kotaku asked Phil, if there's an update on it, and he said although he played it recently. But there's a part here that's a little bit worrisome to me. Stephen asked, I asked Phil if Microsoft would consider offering Halo Infinite's campaign at a different time than the multiplayer if one is complete before the other. And Phil said, Bonnie Ross and the team will go drive those decisions, but I think we want to make sure people feel that they have a Halo experience. I think we can look at options like that. So yeah, I think that's something to think about, but we want to make sure we do it right. Which, reading that, to me, I don't know how you took it, Jez. I did see, I think Windows Central Gaming tweeted about this. I don't know if you guys wrote an article or whatever, but like that tweet to me says maybe. And I am not a fan of that decision of splitting up the campaign and the multiplayer. Like, and I understand this.
Why?
Hold on. Let me just continue, right? I understand that Halo Infinite is going to succeed or fail based on the multiplayer of the game, not on the campaign. So I'm saying this knowing this, right? Like, it's all about the multiplayer. Basically, these are two separate projects, right? The Halo multiplayer is a separate project from the Halo campaign. And it sounds like one of the reasons for the delay is the campaign isn't ready. So if the Halo multiplayer is ready and raring to go, why not release that first? But I don't think that's a good idea. Like, I understand the reasons why you would do it, because the multiplayer is so important to Halo. But there's also, I always kind of think like Halo is this 50-50, where half of the people who love Halo play it for the campaign, and half of the people who love Halo play it for the multiplayer. I'm kind of in the middle. I love Halo for both. I love the story, I love the campaigns, I love the co-op, but I also love the multiplayer. It's my it has been my favorite multiplayer franchise basically of all time. And I can't think of another franchise that has released in parts like this. I understand like 343 had difficult times with the development because of the pandemic and working from home, etc., etc. But to me, Halo's been on the decline for years. It's still one of the biggest franchises in gaming, but like it's no longer at the level that it was in 2007 with Halo 3. It's gone the other way. And if you want to raise Halo's stature again, I think you need to release it as a complete package with a campaign that is amazing and a multiplayer that is full of many different modes and many different customization options and all that stuff, and have it be a single experience instead of saying, well, the multiplayer is ready in April, right? And someone just corrected me. Grand Theft Auto 5 didn't have multiplayer at launch, and neither did Red Dead Redemption. But both of those games previously, Grand Theft Auto and Red Dead, were known for their single player. Grand Theft Auto didn't have multiplayer until that point. So this is a little bit different. So like in my eyes, if you want to raise Halo, you got to release them as a singular product. You can't release, the multiplayer in April and then like, oh, the campaign's finished, release it in September. In my opinion, it has to be done all at once. But I have a feeling you don't agree. So what do you think?
I think they can release them separately.
Well, I'm not saying they can't. I just don't think it's a good idea personally.
I think it's a great idea.
Oh,
in fact, I think it's an amazing idea.
I hate you, Jez. I hate you so much. I knew you were going to do this. This is my franchise. You don't even care about Halo. All you care about is Gears of War and Monster Hunter.
I love Halo. I adore Halo.
No, you don't. Don't listen to him, chat. He despises Halo. He tells me all the time that Master Chief is one of the worst characters in gaming history, and that Microsoft should stop making Halo.
No, Halo's amazing, and it's not even slightly overrated. Not even slightly. But, disregarding all that, I think they can and should release the multiplayer as soon as possible, if it's ready, because why not? Why hold it back just to meet some arbitrary standard of releasing games as full packages? We're in a period of, market upheaval. Why not just slap on some more market upheaval? Why not just, why not just release them? It's going to be a free-to-play client, completely separate from the single-player experience. There's no like There's not going to be any like shared gameplay threads between those sort of experiences. It's not like it's not like World of Warcraft, for example, where it's like the multiplayer is literally intrinsic to the experience. It's going to be separate. So I think they can release them separately. And if you want to like do it in a way that doesn't trigger people who are, adhering to this arbitrary rule that they need to release as a single entity, why not release it as an early access multiplayer beta?
No,
and just call it a multiplayer beta, and then like no one can complain about it, even though it won't be a beta, it'll be just with the full game. But you can just call it a beta, and then no one can say anything. It's genius. Listen to me, Microsoft. I'm like the devil on Microsoft's shoulder right now, and you're like the angel saying, no,
I really don't like the idea of Microsoft releasing early access games, as they're not like one of the richest companies in the world, and they're not a console manufacturer. Like, early access games are for small developers who need funding, not for a gigantic studio like 343.
Don't games need to be tested?
Sure.
World of Warcraft, again, been doing this for years. They have the early access beta for every expansion. They've been doing that for 15 years.
Sure. I mean, they can easily do a beta. Like Halo 5 had a beta a year before the game came out. They could have. Why didn't they do that for Halo Infinite? They've been working on the game for 5 years. Like, look, here's my thing. Here's my thing, okay? Here's my counter to your counter, okay? The game missed launch, right? It missed launch. So, does it matter when it comes out at all? Like, if you're like, everybody was trying their hardest to get the game out for launch. At this point, it's not making it. So just delay it until everything is as good as it can possibly be, and you release it in a complete state at whatever time. Like, what do you, like? You know what I mean? Like, what essentially it's like, does it have to be out by a specific point in time? Does it have to be out in the fiscal year, this fiscal year, so by July? But it's like, you already missed the most important window the game had, which was the launch of the console. And now you're telling me, well, you know what? We want to have the game out somewhat soon, so we're going to break it up completely. I don't like that idea. I don't like it at all. You know what it screams to me? It screams to me of a completely mismanaged product with leadership who don't know what they're doing. And I can't think of any other game that's done this. And I think if they did, the writing's on the wall for the quality of the game. If it was a quality product, I think it would have released in a complete state.
But all of these are just random fears that aren't based in reality.
Oh yeah,
like
hold on. How many games as a service games launched day one that were really, really good and didn't have problems?
Man, do I really have to bring up World of Warcraft again?
World of Warcraft, which is a game 15 years ago, wasn't the most recent games as a service game Marvel Avengers? And how many nobody's even playing it anymore. And I don't know. My whole thing is, I don't really think 343 is that great of a developer. So I don't really have faith in. I don't know. I don't have faith in them. And when I hear they might consider splitting them up, it just leads me to think that the campaign isn't any good. Like, sure, they've made the multiplayer in Halo 5 was great, but and I think it'll be great with Halo Infinite. But if they're not willing to ship it with the campaign, then the campaign must be doo-doo butt.
Well, maybe they just want to make it even better.
Then release it when it's completely finished. Like, what happened to releasing games?
Why
what happened to releasing games
for no reason?
What happened to releasing games that were content complete day one? What happened to that?
I don't care. Who cares? That's just some arbitrary rule tradition that doesn't make any sense. Like, if the multiplayer is finished, why not just release it? There's literally no reason other than to spare some dude's feelings. It doesn't mean the single player is going to be bad. It just means the multiplayer is going to be finished first, and that multiplayer has a completely different development paradigm to a single player game. You don't have to do voiceovers. You don't have to do all that other stuff. You know what I mean? I think they should just release it as a multiplayer beta, a 6-month long multiplayer beta, and where you retain all of your unlocks as if it was just a launch, and then they can call it beta, and then no one can be upset about it.
Mm. I really don't like the idea of Halo releasing separate components. I just don't.
It doesn't. Yeah, but you don't have a good reason for it.
I mean,
you literally don't have a good reason for it.
Yeah, well, I mean, I don't know, man. All right, well, we'll see. We'll see when they release the multiplayer separately, and it doesn't have all the stuff it needs to have, and it doesn't have the content coming in, and within a month, people stop playing it. So,
but why would it? Why would it? If it's finished, why does the single player affect the quality of the multiplayer? It just means that those teams finish their part of the game quicker, doesn't it?
Mm.
See what I'm saying?
I even though I understand your thinking on this, I just don't like the idea of it happening. So, and as someone who wants both day one, I don't like the camp. To me, it's also about optics, because it would tell everybody that the campaign just isn't really worth it. You know what I mean? Like, it's like, oh, here's Halo, but it's just a multiplayer. The part we truly care about, when's the campaign coming out? We don't know. Whatever, who cares? Like, that's kind of the message that it sends. That the only thing they care about about Halo Infinite is the multiplayer with the microtransactions and the battle passes and a way to monetize. And the other part with the story and the thing maybe you can't monetize so well, it's coming 6 months later. That's kind of how I view it. That's why you call it
a beta.
I mean, maybe they could. We'll have to see, but that's kind of how I view it. And I understand this as someone who's like,
so,
Halo.
In your view, then it kind of like it sends the message that they've put less effort into the single player. Maybe
that it sends the message to me that the only thing they care about is the multiplayer, and that campaign isn't important. But hey, I mean, this is only my favorite franchise in the world. Like, if Call of Duty or some other games did this, I wouldn't care. Like, I just wouldn't. I'd be oblivious to it. But you're talking about Halo. You're talking about Master Chief. You
want to have that experience from back in the day. Like, I remember, like, back before I grew out of Halo. When I was a very young child. I'm making so many enemies right now, but back in the day, I remember like being excited and going out and buying Halo 2 from the store, queuing up and stuff like that, and then getting home and playing with my friends. I skipped school so much to play Halo as a kid. So I get it, wanting that sort of complete experience and not wanting it to seem like it's just sort of throwaway parts and not like this complete launch. I get that, but at the same time, it's kind of arbitrary, and it's not how people consume content in 2020. Like, do you think like a kid playing Halo for the first time is going to really care about that stuff?
I don't think a kid's going to play Halo regardless.
Of course they will. It's going to be free to play, man.
But it's going to be huge. Yeah, but there's plenty of other free to play games. Like,
trust me, kids will play Halo in their droves because it's free to play. Kids ain't got no money, and they're going to see all their favorite Twitch streamers playing Halo Infinite. They're going to play it. Kids are going to play Halo Infinite. And I half think the art style is partially inspired by wanting to appeal to a certain age group. But could be wrong about that.
I mean, you're probably right. They'll probably release the multiplayer, call it a beta. They'll release it in May. It'll be multiplayer only, and they'll release the campaign sometime later, whenever it's finished. Because that is how Halo's gonna sink or swim. It's not based on the campaign. It's just based on the multiplayer. But then again, it brings up another question. Like, does Microsoft do that for other games that are multiplayer? Does Gear 6 launch multiplayer first and then have a campaign later? Does that open up a can of worms where, like, you don't?
Well, it depends how much the dev screws things up, doesn't it? Really?
Are you saying 343 screwed things up?
Yeah, It's blatantly obvious that they're screwing
Yeah,
things up,
that
isn't
is
it?
probably true. That is probably very true. And I'm not saying I wouldn't play like Halo Day 1. Of course I would. I love the multiplayer. I just want the whole experience right away. And I want Halo to, return to its glory days. And I just in my mind, I just don't feel I feel like not having the campaign at launch is, would be a poor optic from a lot of people. Like even if you want to even look at something like Metacritic, Jez, a release of Halo Infinite with only the multiplayer would not be viewed very highly by people who review video games on Metacritic. And I know you'll say that
but that's
doesn't
why you
matter.
call it a beta.
Well, people, yeah, but that didn't stop IGN from reviewing Grounded and giving it a 6.
Yeah, well, I guess they hold Microsoft to different standards, but
Either way,
I don't know. It also doesn't matter.
it probably
How do you dodge a Devil May Cry? I can't remember.
it probably doesn't matter. But the other big thing about this, other than Phil saying that the next Xbox is in production, what do you think he means there, Jez? Like, he talks about that they've already started iterating on the hardware. Do you think he's referring to the next generation Xbox console? Do you think he's referring to a mid-gen refresh, or do you think he's referring to like maybe a slimmer Xbox Series X that they could put out in 3 years?
Oh
If you had to guess right now, like, all right, I guess it comes down to: do you believe there'll be a mid-gen refresh for this upcoming generation?
Man, I don't know. I really don't know. I mean, surely that could make the console smaller at some point when like more efficient everything comes out. I don't know. It's really, really hard to say. Like, I have no idea, because I think, like, to know the answer to that question, you've really got to be following what AMD is doing, and it's something I just don't do. So I don't know. What are your thoughts on it? Because
I
know
can't
something I
imagine.
don't.
I can't imagine they're talking about next gen console, right? Because even when they talked about like the Series X and when it started, kind of the thought process was like 2016, right? So that's like 4 years from launch. This gen just started, so I can't imagine they're already talking about the next gen console yet. So to me, it's either a mid-gen refresh, which, as we know, with the Xbox One X started when they released the Xbox One, or a slim version. And as you know, like, PlayStation and Xbox have consistently always updated their consoles, slimmed it down with parts once they were able to kind of reduce the price. And I can see that maybe being more realistic, like an Xbox Series X in a couple years that is, not as big. Or maybe a mid-gen refresh that has a faster SSD, because that was the question he was asked. But I know there's this kind of fear that Xbox is done making hardware, which I think is completely misled, because there's definitely going to be more hardware.
If you're working in the industry and you think that Microsoft's going to stop making hardware, you should probably quit, because it just means you haven't been doing your job properly, frankly. Like, the fact that xCloud is powered by console hardware alone should be your indicator that they're not done making hardware. Like, if a dev's making a game for an Xbox console, they're also making it for the cloud. If they're making a game for cloud, they're also making it for console. And if you're making that hardware anyway, why not bundle it up and sell it at retail? Because people are always going to want the native experience because of the laws of physics. So, the whole meme about Microsoft looking to get out of hardware just because they have a cloud gaming platform is just ridiculously dumb.
Yeah.
And like, it just shows that someone hasn't done their research, frankly, if they perpetuate that crap. But yeah, I don't know what they mean by working on more console hardware. They're probably like, I want to believe, Rand, that they're looking at making an xCloud device that actually is ergonomic, because I hate playing on my phone, man. I really do. I hate like the fact that my notifications are popping up, interrupting everything. I hate the touch controls on screen. I hate the fact that I hate Bluetooth. Like, everything about xCloud right now is just painful, except for like the service itself. The ergonomic at proposition that they're putting forward is awful. So like dedicated hardware for xCloud would be great.
Yeah.
At least like in my opinion. But when it comes to actual full blown hardware, it's hard to say if they're looking at like a mid-gen refresh or something else, you know. I mean, it's totally possible that they could like use AMD's latest CPU chipset, or maybe upgrade the GPU at some point, or I don't know. It's just really hard to predict that sort of thing.
You know what's not hard to predict? Phil's comments about Bethesda, because that's what we're going to be talking about now.
Yeah.
And we have like 2,200 people watching. So if you guys are enjoying the show, make sure you hit that like button and share this out on social media so people can hear what me and Jazz have to say about this whole Bethesda exclusive stuff. And I see I have 30 dislikes, and I would imagine that's for the Halo stuff. Look, sue me. I get a little emotional about Halo. Okay, it's a franchise that means a lot to me. So if my argument wasn't the best, because I really know there's no logical argument to saying that the multiplayer
they're mad at me,
shouldn't.
not you, are they?
Well, no, there's definitely people mad at me. Like, I understand there's really no argument you can say, well, if multiplayer's finished, just release it. Like, I get it. But as someone who loves Halo, it's just like, no, because the campaign means, you know, like, it's just as important to me as the multiplayer, and I want them both at the same time. I understand that's a little emotional, maybe a little daft, but whatever, sue me. I'm allowed to get a little emotional when it comes to Halo. Like, I want the franchise to be good again, god damn it. Like, come on. Anyways.
I mean, that's how I felt when they announced Fallout 76. You know, it's like multiplayer Fallout.
I know, right?
No,
who really wants
please
multiplayer
no.
Fallout?
Even
All
though,
right.
like, it's fair enough that they could make it, but like from an emotional perspective, well, I still don't really feel like I got my true sequel to Fallout 3 and New Vegas shit. So,
Well, maybe you will. But so here we go with the Bethesda thing. Like, I didn't expect this Phil to kind of talk about it a little bit more in depth, although he still kind of is beating around the bush a little bit here. Great interview over at Kotaku with Stephen Totillo. And he kind of asked Phil, is it possible to recoup a $7.5 billion investment if you don't sell Elder Scrolls 6 on the PlayStation? And Phil said, yeah. Now, first I'm going to say, that is a leading question, and it's also kind of a dumb question, in my opinion. Because what's Phil supposed to say? No? And if he says no, all the articles would be like, Xbox needs PlayStation to survive, right? So, like...
It's a dumb question, but a smart question at the same time.
Sure.
Because of the fact that it leads him into saying that. I think he knew that, obviously, what Phil was going to say, and the position that he was being put in. And that's like, this is why I suck at interviews, is because I can't manipulate people like that. But it's like, it was a clever way to put across a dumb question. But
yeah. Shout out to Radam
Sorry,
for being the newest member. Enjoy all the emotes, brother. Go ahead, Jess.
But yeah, it's like, you're right to say that it's a dumb question in this context that Phil Spencer's obviously going to say, of course they're going to be able to recoup that money.
Yeah.
But it also kind of shows that, I mean, I don't know if this is Totillo's true position on the whole thing, that he genuinely believes that the PlayStation install base is necessary. But if you just take a 5-minute look at the gaming industry as a whole, the PlayStation install base is tiny, it's minuscule compared to the whole pie. If you're looking at PC and mobile phones and mobile devices, and basically any screen which can become an xCloud device, that's the bet Microsoft is making here. When Microsoft's talking about like, we don't need PlayStation, it's because they're saying we can recoup those costs through Game Pass and, you know, through web browsers and stuff like that. That's what they're saying. That's the bet they're making. And you can argue that it's a bet that won't pay off, maybe. You know, no one's got a crystal ball. But I don't think it's a bet that is without merit. You know, I don't think it's a risky bet. I think it's a pretty safe bet. Especially if you look at the way xCloud's been blown up in Korea, which is like a really great test case for game streaming in markets that are sort of unfamiliar to Western game journalists, you know. And that's ultimately the bet Microsoft's making, you know.
So let me just read the quote and we can discuss it. He says, "I don't want to be flip about that. The deal was done. The deal was not done to take games away from another player base. Nowhere in the document that we put together was how do we keep players from playing these games. We want more people to play the games, not fewer people to be able to play them." But also saying the model, I'm just answering directly the question you asked, was when I think about where people are going to be playing the number of devices that we had, and we have xCloud and PC and Game Pass in our console base, I don't have to ship those games on any other platform other than the platforms we support in order to kind of make the deal work for us. Now,
that's as say. How can you spin that as anything other than Bethesda games won't be on any platform that doesn't have Xbox Game Pass?
People are spinning it because I see people on Twitter all the time saying, if they were just exclusive, why wouldn't Phil and company just come out and say they were? And to that, I'll repeat because I've said this before. One, the deal's not finished. They don't own Bethesda yet, right? They're trying to work through and get it completed till next year. So they can't really talk about it in that manner about their plans of what they're going to do with the Bethesda games other than saying case-by-case basis. Two, they don't need to tell everybody they're going to be exclusive right now. Like, just the announcement of them announcing that they bought Bethesda pushed hardware pre-orders. I mean, they did it the day before for a reason. And now, because of it, Xbox is always in the news. It's got people talking. It's got people speculating. Bethesda games, will they or won't they come to Xbox? And that's good because it keeps Xbox in people's minds. And honestly,
if you look at Google Trends, Xbox is actually trending higher than PlayStation right now.
Yeah, and Microsoft is basically playing a PR game of, number one, we don't need to say anything yet. We can save, because whenever they do come out and say Starfield is exclusive and Elder Scrolls is exclusive, that is a big moment. You don't need to use that bullet now before the launch of the hardware when all the hardware is sold out. You can save it for a moment in 2021 when it's really going to be impactful, right? So you don't need to do it yet. Plus, there's also the idea that Microsoft might be seen as like a monster eating up games, and people will be upset because, like you tweeted out, Jazz, don't be surprised that when these games get announced as Xbox exclusive, you'll suddenly see articles from the press saying why this is very bad for gamers and why it's really bad that Sony players can't play, these games on their systems. Trust me, it's gonna come. Why Microsoft buying Bethesda is bad, and it's I think they're kind of delaying that, but mostly I think it's because the deal isn't completely finished yet, and
also I think it's like you say, they can save those announcements for a rainy day. Maybe Sony announces like a state of play where they talk about God of War 2 gameplay, for example, God of War Ragnarok. Sorry. I realize it's not the second game, but maybe they announce a state of play for that, and then maybe Microsoft announces, an Xbox. What is that show called now? I can't even remember. What is the Xbox?
XO?
No, the monthly show.
Oh, Inside Xbox that they haven't done in a
Inside
while?
Xbox, that's the one, yeah. Maybe they announce an Inside Xbox where it's going to be like Inside Xbox Starfield Edition, where they talk about Starfield and then they end it with coming at Xbox, PC, and xCloud, right at the end, announce the platforms. That's when you say that you can save those announcements for when you need them. And Microsoft's got so many of them now. Wolfenstein 3, the next Doom, the next Elder Scrolls, Starfield, the next Fallout. They've got all these announcements to make in their pocket. Why would they announce them all at once? Why not spread them out to have the maximum impact possible and to really ram it home that Xbox is now a place for high quality exclusive games? People really can't get it out of their head that Xbox doesn't have these games as exclusives, but they do. It's just a matter of time before it's confirmed, providing that the deal goes through as planned, of course. So,
yeah, and it's funny because the other part of his interview basically said the same thing when they talked about the deal with Nintendo, and he literally says that the prospect of more Xbox games coming to non-Xbox consoles, which is literally can be applied to the Bethesda games coming to PlayStation. Phil said it doesn't feel sustainable to consider Xbox games on a case-by-case basis for the Switch, and in order to support it, he would want a full Xbox ecosystem like Xbox Live and Game Pass, which kind of what you said earlier in the show, that the only way Bethesda games potentially get on PlayStation is if they allow a version of Game Pass on their store, which realistically probably isn't going to happen. Like, I don't know how anybody can read this interview, see what Phil says about not needing other platforms to make the deal work, because I don't know about you, Jez, how many people told me Microsoft and Xbox need PlayStation. They need the PlayStation user base to make their money back. It's like, no, they don't. Like, it's not, they don't need to sell anything on PlayStation. Like, you have no clue about Microsoft's larger goals with Game Pass. Like, the deal was done strictly to funnel people into Game Pass in large quantities, not to just make a singular sale on PlayStation. Because as I've said it before, Microsoft doesn't want to sell Starfield one time to a bunch of users on PlayStation. Microsoft wants to sell Starfield to all those people for the rest of time via Xbox Game Pass. Like, that's the play. They make more money out of you being subscribed than they would you buying a singular game. And I don't think people realize that. Also, I think people don't want to believe that, you know, their favorite, franchises won't be on PlayStation. But I don't know how you could read this stuff. What Phil says about how they don't need to support platforms other than the ones they do support, and how they have iPhone and iOS, the iOS and Android streaming, consoles and PC, and then take his literal comment about Nintendo where he says case-by-case basis isn't sustainable, and come to the conclusion that, no, the games will still come to PlayStation. It's literally all right in there, black and white. All that, I don't know. Like, I don't know if people just are being like obtuse about it, or if they like just don't want to believe it, but it's literally all written right here. You just have to read in between the lines. Right? Am I like off the mark on this, Jez?
Nope. But we said this months ago. Like, it's well, how long has it been now? Weeks ago, maybe some better way of phrasing it.
Yeah.
But it's just obvious if you are someone who's been following Microsoft's movements and reading their financials, and basically me, because it's my job, it's just painfully obvious, like what their plans are with this stuff. And you have to understand Microsoft's mentality. And when they're talking about hitting 3 billion gamers, which is their North Star goal, have a lofty, unrealistic goal. The console install base maxes out at 250 million, which is minuscule, and then PlayStation is a fragment of that. So it really just is. It's just of complete unimportance to put the games on PlayStation, and this is ultimately a response to the meme that Xbox doesn't have great exclusives. Because if you're making a service called Xbox Game Pass, right now the meme is that Xbox has no games. So how do you fix that? You fix that by buying a publisher which has tons of critically acclaimed games. Like this is the perfect deal for Microsoft. It was the perfect deal for Xbox Game Pass. And you don't grow Game Pass by selling those games at retail on someone else's system. You just don't. So it's just obvious, And this will come to pass in a few months' time if the deal goes through as planned. Anything could happen. Like, the government could step in and block it. I don't know.
Yeah, the government's not going to do that. It would be funny, though, if the deal got blown up for whatever reason and it didn't go through.
Yeah, it would be a massive, epic fail. But, as long as things go according to plan with the deal, then yeah, those games are going to be available on Xbox Game Pass, wherever that is available. And if that's on PlayStation 5 through a web browser, then so be it, But there will be exclusive to Xbox Game Pass. And that's because that's what Microsoft's key performance indicator for Xbox and gaming is right now, is subscriptions in Xbox Game Pass, which is another reason why they're pushing for mod support on on Xbox Game Pass games on PC because they know they're not going to win the PC gaming community over without having those features in place, you know. And those games don't. Skyrim achieved its longevity in part because of mods, and you need to have modding support for PC games. And right now, it's modding support on the Xbox app isn't great, but you know that's another hurdle to cross when it comes to it. But it's all about Game Pass, man.
Yep.
And that's just the way it's going to be.
That is just going to be the way it's going to be. And maybe I think people need that moment where they see Starfield announced and it just says Xbox and PC, and then it comes out and it's only Xbox and PC. I think people need that essentially come to Jesus moment where they see it for themselves, right? Because I don't know, I understand like, hey, Bethesda's a huge publisher, but like we are only having this conversation because it's Microsoft. Because if Sony bought Bethesda, there would be no discussion. Everybody would just know the Bethesda games would only be on PlayStation. If Google bought them, same thing. Hell, if even Nintendo bought them, same thing. It's only a discussion with Microsoft because they happen to buy Minecraft. And Minecraft was kept everywhere because it was a game that was originally everywhere. And when Microsoft... Here's the other thing. When you can go... And I saw Clobrel tweeted this, and I had thought about it before. Go compare the announcement of Microsoft buying Minecraft to the announcement of Microsoft buying Bethesda, and look at the language. They're immediately apparent with Minecraft that it's going nowhere and will always be on every platform that they're talking about. And then with Bethesda, they're like, games will be evaluated on a case-by-case basis, but they'll be on Game Pass, PC, and console. They're basically telling you, without confirming 100%, their intentions. Just compare both press releases, and you can see it clear as day. Because if the Bethesda games were going to be on PlayStation 5 day one alongside their Xbox counterparts, they would have said it in the release, just like they did with Minecraft. Yeah. But it's not, because they won't be. And this is a deal to get Game Pass to 30 million subscribers and 40 million subscribers and 50 million subscribers. That's what it's for. It's not necessarily made to drive hardware sales because the hardware is just one portal to the Xbox ecosystem, which is Game Pass. It's to have those games streamable on iOS and Android day one to kind of beam them out to places like India and other like Japan and other places that really haven't been Xbox strong. Really, like they don't really buy the hardware, but they do play mobile. It's all about that. And to maximize your return in Game Pass, you can't put them on other platforms. Because if you put them on PlayStation, then the majority of people there will just continue to buy them on PlayStation. And Microsoft doesn't want that. They want those people, essentially subscribe to Game Pass. And the only way to do that is to keep them exclusive. So that's what it's gonna be. And I feel like I'm beating a dead horse on this because we talk about it all the time. But people still are kind of blind to it. So yeah. Moving on from that, we'll give some shout outs in the super chats here. DMCR says, Jez, you must be tired with back-to-back podcasts with Miles. Are you feeling better? And have they given you a better diagnosis?
No, I'm still on the waiting list for diagnosis, which sucks, but it is what it is. That's becoming a catchphrase of mine. It's like, so what I say when I don't know what else to say.
It is what it is.
Yeah, it is what it is. But I've got still waiting for that. And I am pretty tired. I was talking to Miles about maybe moving that show to Sunday instead, but it's just because my sleeping pattern screwed up as well. But after today, it should be fixed. I've been up awake for a long time.
Yeah.
So
Isolar says, for open world games, I'm concerned if Cyberpunk will have constant dips into 20 frames since it's not upgraded day one. Your thoughts? Well, I mean, maybe on the Xbox One or the One X, it might have frame rate issues. I would imagine it'll be smoother on the Series X. What do you think, Jez?
Can you repeat the question?
If Cyberpunk will have frame rate issues, when it comes out.
I think there's always a chance that a game that's built for past gen will have some kind of issues. I think there's always that chance. Like I was playing Vampire on the Xbox Series X. You remember Vampire?
Yes, I remember Vampire, of course.
That had frame rate issues like crazy on the Xbox One, right?
I didn't play it, but you were telling me about it.
Well, yeah, it wasn't performant on the Xbox One, and it's not performant on the Xbox Series X either. There's like something. It's like it's not the frame rate, but there's something about it that makes it stutter, and it's like there's something in the engine that just needs fixing that isn't fixed, and so like there's only so much that throwing raw hardware at a game can do, and like Vampire's not like a tremendously amazing looking game, and it's like it's in relatively close quarters. It's not like a massive open world game either, but it's still like really unperformant and unoptimized. And I think like when it comes to games like Cyberpunk and even The Witcher 3, like even on the best PCs when The Witcher 3 launched, that one city was really laggy. I can't remember what its name is now. Is it Oxenfurt? I can't remember. But there was one city in The Witcher 3 that was just really laggy, just because of all the assets that were sort of piled up on top of each other, And over the course of updates, they did fix it and improve it and stuff like that. But yeah, we just don't know. We just don't know until the game comes out. Hopefully not. But either way, it's going to be optimized for next gen properly in the coming early 2021. I think they said, right?
Yeah, the best place to play it if you don't have a PC, a really good PC, will definitely be Series X. DMCR says the IGN fiasco was that they said a racing game shows the visual fidelity of a console, and Dirt didn't look next gen, i.e. a Forza, which is unfair. Well, Dirt looks exactly like Dirt. Like, I don't understand why people were so up in arms about how Dirt looked. It literally looked like the pre-release trailers that they showed back in May. It looks, I mean, I don't, like, does Dirt 4 and Dirt 3 not exist? Or, like, Dirt Rally? Like, people knew exactly what to expect from Dirt, but because it was on Series X, for some reason they expected a game that was just contrary to, like, look different than what the franchise has always looked like. I don't understand that, Like, Forza Horizon is always one of the best looking games out there. And Forza Horizon 5 and Forza Motorsport will be probably the best looking racers next to, like, Gran Turismo 7. But Dirt has never been that. Like, I was watching the gameplay, I'm like, this looks just like Dirt. And, like, people were like, this looks like a 360 game. I'm like, are you smoking crack? Like, what is going on here? Sherman Jacob says, which comes first, Forza Motorsport 8, or Forza Motorsport since it's been rebranded, or Forza Horizon 5? That is a good question, Jez, because we were kind of debating that for a while. But it certainly does seem like Motorsport will come first, doesn't it?
Yeah, I think it does seem like Motorsport is the game that's coming first.
Which
maybe like they're working on all sorts of, because like Forza Horizon depends on tech from Turn 10, right? So maybe there's like a huge effort to rewrite the engine and stuff like that right now. I don't know.
Yeah, they did go back and tweak the engine. And it also gives me, if they are giving Forza Horizon a lot of time, I wonder how much of that will be revamped. Because Forza Horizon 4 came out in 2018, and if you think Motorsport's coming out in 2022, like it looks like, maybe with the possibility of coming out in 2021, then Horizon 5's not coming out until 2022 or 2023, and that would be a long gap. So maybe they're kind of taking back Forza Horizon, going back to the drawing board, because as good as 4 was, it wasn't. It still was a lot like Forza Horizon 3. Felix says, seems to me like releasing heavy hitters up front is a waste. Great for marketing, but does it lead to any additional sales over the next 6 months? So are you saying like not having Halo Infinite at launch is okay because the consoles are all going to sell out anyways? I mean, I guess you could make that argument that like you don't need the exclusives at launch. Like Sony doesn't need Spider-Man or Demon's Souls or all those games because everybody is going to buy the console. But they don't make money on the consoles. They make money on the software. And people want to buy software to go along with their new hardware. So wouldn't you want a big exclusive to have people buy to give you money? I don't know. What do you think, Jez?
I think it's correct that the big exclusive doesn't matter because they're not going to maybe be able to manufacture enough products to meet demand. But it sort of sucks some of the buzz out of it, doesn't it?
It does.
Like the memes that are set now about the console are going to be memes that carry on for months, and you know what, you know what the discourse is like. It's just sort of, it's just how these things go sometimes.
Yeah.
So I think it would have been cool to have Halo at launch, just to have that positive buzz around the launch. But is it actually needed? Probably not.
Yeah. Cal Tattoo says, do you think Minecraft will be a next-gen exclusive for Series X and S? Love the show, guys. No, Minecraft's always going to be everywhere. The Glitch Doctor says, I own a massive backlog of games that I didn't play. The fact that I can play many of them with a better frame rate and added HDR sold me on a Series X. And that is amazing, even though someone doesn't use back compat a lot. The fact that if I want to go back and play those games, I can, and they'll be better than ever, is pretty awesome. Tommy Hatcher says, I agree, 343 has never made a good game. JW says, British dude is wrong, so I guess he means you, Jez. We need to hold gaming companies accountable for complete releases, AF games that aren't rushed and released in beta. Sorry, mate. Yeah, people have issues releasing something in betas, Jez. T'Challa says, the content for Halo has to be there and complete for its fans. The larger Halo community that will buy and support and be vocal, the game will hate it. Isolar says, Halo was built around single-player and multiplayer, so both are important to him. Looney Boy says, they will make consoles like cell phones. Look at all-access model. Deal with GameStop makes them the Verizon store equivalent. New console every 2 years. I just can't see them launching a new console every 2 years. And I know people point to the Xbox all-access model, but consoles aren't phones. So I just don't see that happening. I just don't see there being a new iteration every 2 years. I just don't. I mean, I could be wrong, but I don't see it happening. Info Aquasafe says, been watching your show since the beginning, but never made it live. Keep up the fantastic work. Thank you for being here, buddy. Splatum
Thanks
says,
so much, man.
Yeah. Splatum says, what's all this about an Xbox V handheld console? Is the picture that's on the internet real or fake? Hope it's a real thing. I'm buying one. Jazz, you want to tell people the bad news about that?
Yeah, that's just fan art. Although, like, it's really awesome fan art, and honestly, it goes back to what I was saying earlier about xCloud needing an ergonomic device, because playing on a phone it's just not a great experience. I hope they are making something like that, but that specific device was just really cool fan art.
It is really cool fan art, but don't see it happening. Luke Hobby says, thanks for the excellent weekly podcast, boys. Well, thank you for the comment. Saji Caesar says, now I know why Jez loves the Series X packaging. And Stephen Box,
why is that?
I don't know. He just says, now I know why Jez loves the Series X packaging.
I don't get it.
Stephen Boxy says,
it's got Halo on it?
Yeah, I guess. Stephen Boxy says, do you think Xbox is successfully marketing Game Pass to the general public? Do you think they are, Jez? I think maybe that's a good question.
This is the thing about the general public. The general public doesn't really care about consoles at all. It just ends up becoming sort of like an incidental product they need to buy to access FIFA and Call of Duty. So I think purely by virtue of not having the Call of Duty marketing deal, I think Microsoft's not doing a great job of marketing Xbox to the general public. I genuinely think that deal with Call of Duty, as the Xbox being the home of Call of Duty, I do think that is undervalued, because the general public are those kind of gamers who only buy Call of Duty and FIFA every year in, year out. But Microsoft can fix that by releasing a Halo that's actually good. And the jury's out on whether or not 343 can do that.
That's true. The jury's out on that. But you don't want to talk about... Did you watch the video for the PlayStation 5 UI?
No, I didn't. But there was a lot of salt about it not being 4K. About the Xbox not being 4K.
So I watched the video, and I thought the UI is... I thought it's pretty good. I mean, there's some features there that I'll never use, like the picture-in-picture stuff, where there's like a guide where you're looking for something and you can kind of snap, which is weird because Xbox One had snap back when it launched, and I thought it was a useless feature, and I still think it's a useless feature that nobody used, and they have it, and you can watch videos of like, hey, I'm trying to reach this collectible. Let me see this video. And they also have like this thing where if you're in a party, someone can like share their screen like you can on Discord, where as you're playing a game, you can watch the game the other person is playing, which is, to me, I would never do that on Xbox. So it's like, I'm playing a game. I don't really want to see the game someone else is playing that's taking up real estate on my TV. So, like, there's features there I personally wouldn't use, but then again, I'm not a PlayStation, I'm not like a PlayStation dominant user. I don't play everything on PlayStation. So, like, I'm probably the wrong person to come to for, if I'll use it. I'm sure there's people out there that probably like, yeah, I love that stuff. But it does look like an improvement over the user interface that is currently on the PlayStation 4. And but it wasn't even the big debate wasn't about the new features that it's bringing. It's just that the UI for the PlayStation 4 is 4K, and the UI for the Series X in preview was 1080p. Now, nobody knows if it's going to be updated to 4K. I have a feeling it's not, because they're going to free up the resources for the games. But it's this weird situation where, like, some people say resolution doesn't matter in games anymore, yet are really deeply, deeply care about the resolution of a user interface. And, like, isn't that weird?
Yeah, that is weird. But Rand, I'll tell you something, my man.
Mm-hmm.
It does bug me that the Xbox dashboard isn't 4K, and I'll tell you why.
Well, I'll agree with you. I'll agree with you. So you say what you say first, and I'll say. So go ahead.
Purely because switching between menus makes my TV turn off for a little while it switches between 4K and 1080p. And I don't know if it's because I got my TV slow, has a bad processor or something. The Xbox Series X will actually load a game faster than it takes my bloody TV to switch modes. So if like the dashboard was 4K, it wouldn't have to switch, resolution modes. So that's a mild irritant. And I suppose in reality, it's better for devs to have more RAM to play with. But that is my thoughts.
I mean, it's just that I have a 4K television. So, like, I would love to see the dashboard rendered in 4K. That's kind of just my complaint. Like, I have a 4K TV. So, but I understand, like, is it that really big of a deal? Because, no, I'm not spending all my time looking at the user interface. Like, I'm playing games, and I want the games to look the best and play the best and have the best, like, frame rates that the system can do. And if that requires them to, free up resources, to give them more RAM or whatever by not rendering in 4K, then do it. Because that's where, like, I don't care that PlayStation has the 4K thing, because I'm not going to be using it that much. I'm not going to be using it to play third-party games on. I'll play Spider-Man Miles Morales, I'll play Demon's Souls, and that's probably it until the next exclusive game comes out. So it's not that important to me how it runs third-party games, because it's just an exclusive machine. It's important to me how the Series X runs games, because that's where I literally am going to play everything. And when I get on at night, every single night, and load it up, I get on to play a game, or I get on to watch a Netflix show. I don't get on there to sit at the dashboard and just look at stuff. So I kind of think some of the complaints are a little bit overblown, in that regard. I don't know if that speaks to that PlayStation just is better optimization when it comes to the dashboard, because they're able to do full 4K and have picture-in-picture, where Xbox has the dashboard at 1080p. So does that mean the dashboard is better optimized than PlayStation? I don't really know.
It's the power of Linux. It's the power of Linux, man. This is it, man. 2021 is the year of Linux.
Yeah.
4K dashboards for everyone.
So that's kind of my I don't know, like we're like
it's maybe just Windows sucks, man. Maybe that's why Xbox can't have 4K dashboard.
It's just weird that, like, a console war talking point is 4K user interface versus 1080p user interface, right? Like, how did we come to this? I don't understand. Do you play that? Well, a lot of people. Well, that's the other thing. The people that complain about this, a lot of the people, not all of them, but some of them, like, that's all they do is sit on their dashboards, and most of them don't even play. Like, that's the other thing. Like, I see a lot of people that complain don't even really game. They don't game. And when you guys realize that and open up your eyes to some of these people who constantly do this sort of stuff and realize that they don't play video games, they just live to complain and bitch about stuff, the better you'll be. Like, I get on Xbox to play games. I don't get on Xbox to look and ogle at my dashboard. So it doesn't matter what resolution it runs at.
Yeah, it's just be a nice to have. It's not a necessity per se, but
yeah. I got to ask you a question about Fallout 4, Jez. So they showed off a demo of the game running 60 frames on Series S. Have you heard any more information about? Is this something that's actually releasing? Like, at some point next year, will we be able to play Fallout 4 at 60 frames? Microsoft's talked about the ability to double frame rates. We haven't got a list yet, which I think is kind of weird. Lead up to launch, you think they'd want that, but what do you think about that?
I don't know. I think it depends on the game, doesn't it? I think like a game like Fallout, which is built for PC first, is probably easier to unlock the frame rate than it is for something that's maybe built bespoke for console. Like, I'm not a developer, I just can't say, but it does seem to me that the games that have PC versions are the games that somehow seem to get the improvements more quickly and more easily. But I suppose like all the Bethesda games could see optimizations if it's simple enough to pull them off. But every game's built differently, and it's like I was saying earlier, like Vampire still runs like a dog, even on the Series X. So
yeah,
it depends on the game ultimately. I would hope that Microsoft actually keeps track of what games are actually being upgraded and gives us a list, because right now it's bloody hard to find what games have what optimizations where and when. Like, the Xbox store only has badges for Xbox Series X enhanced on like a handful of games, but then there's a huge list of it on the website in another part. So I just yeah, but again, it's probably COVID making some of this stuff messy.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Xhawk says another Naughty Dog dev joined the initiative. I did see that. The initiative and what they're working on. They say it's going to be something special. They got a lot of talent there. Do you still think we're going to see that game this year, Jez? Do you think we see the initiative's game before 2020 ends?
There's every possibility. I mean, if they are doing a show towards the end of the year, or they are having like announcements at the Game Awards, the initiative's game might be something cool to tease.
Yeah.
I would eventually. Like right now, we kind of like we're in this sort of period where we're waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting for the games to come. But eventually, Microsoft's going to get to a place where they can potentially fill up every quarter with a high quality AAA exclusive, and it won't be a case of like waiting and waiting and waiting, in which like, oh, Machine Games' new games being announced, oh, Arcane Studios' new games being announced, or Tango Gameworks, or 343, or the Coalition, and it'll just be like this avalanche of AAA stuff. Maybe that's wishful thinking, but they have so many studios now with which to make these announcements, and I think it's just a matter of time before it just becomes like an avalanche of stuff, and I no longer have time to cover any studios games except for Microsoft.
That's the dream, right? Lonely Boy says, think about it, Rand. In 2 years, we'll have Xbox Series P, portable xCloud handheld. 2 years later, you release Xbox Series X plus new power benchmark. I don't think Microsoft's going to do a handheld. And he also says, GameStop deal solves the name confusion problem. Reps walk little Timmy's mom through all the differences and cheap all-access price points. Boom. So that was the other thing I wanted to mention. So do you have any like new kind of thoughts on the fact that supposedly GameStop is taking lifetime revenue from any user that they kind of get in the Xbox ecosystem moving forward, and that it's going to be in GameStop's best interest to push Xbox over the other two systems?
Well, it's kind of like, I think I might have mentioned this on the podcast before, but I was speaking to someone ages ago who was involved with the Microsoft Store before they closed them all down, about how Sony's sales force in Europe is just so much bigger than Microsoft's, and like Sony sends the reps into all these electronic stores like MediaMarkt in Germany, and like I don't know, John Lewis in the UK and stuff like that, and they go to all these stores and they they really push their products and explain them thoroughly, and give samples out and stuff like that. So the sales reps in those stores know what to say when someone comes and asks about PlayStation. Where on the other side, Microsoft barely had any sales reps in Europe, especially outside of England and the UK. So basically Europe defaulted to Sony's products because that's where Sony was putting a lot of effort in. So if this is kind of like a response to that aspect of the weakness in Microsoft's business, I wouldn't be surprised if we see a similar deal hit European countries too. Maybe Game in the UK or Media Market in Germany, for example. There's also, I think, GameStop is even exists in Germany, unless I don't know. It's funny, Rand. There's where I lived in Germany, the nearest city, Wurzburg is called. There's a GameStop there. But I don't know if it's a real GameStop or it's just a mom and pop shop that has stolen GameStop's brand because they live in the middle of nowhere and they think they can get away with it. I don't know. So maybe someone from Germany can clear that up if GameStop is actually officially in Germany or not. I have no idea. Because this particular GameStop, like, it still had like Xbox 360 and PlayStation 3 signs in its windows, So I'm kind of like, is that an official GameStop or is that just someone pretending to be a GameStop? I don't know. But yeah, it's all about like, it also shows like how important retail still is to engage the normie crowd, but also it's kind of a nice gesture as well, just because retail has been hammered so hard in every single direction by like COVID and the rise of digital and all this other stuff. And this is like a real lifeline for GameStop, right? So I don't know. There's benefits on both sides, hopefully.
It's very interesting. And
it's interesting, yeah.
You know what's funny? Robitech hit up the super chat and says, "Why is Jez so unkind to me? I remember when we were friends. At least I still have you, Rand." And you know what's funny is that we were actually talking about Roby earlier before the show started. How's it going, Roby? Thank you for the support, brother. I might have to hit Roby up soon because I'm buying a new PC and I need kind of tips on what sort of CPU and GPU to buy. Man,
why do you want to buy a serious gaming PC when all you do is look at the dashboard?
I don't need a gaming PC. I need one for content creation. So
you need like a Threadripper or something.
Something like that, or like a Ryzen 3700X or something maybe paired with the 2070 Super or something. Because I don't think I need a 3080 because I'm not going to be playing games on this. But I do like, because when I try to do 4K videos on this build, like a 10-minute 4K video takes like 50 minutes to render, and like the PC is essentially useless. Like I can't do anything else when it's rendering. So I definitely need to upgrade. But thank you, Roby. Appreciate it, man. And Cherry Salvador says the multitasking side panel was originally presented by 2013 Xbox via presentation of entertainment features. That is true. The snap thing. Like, I don't know. Like, I always kind of felt like the Xbox One was kind of just like a gimmick. It had the Kinect and it had like the snap features and all the TV stuff, and it wasn't really a gaming console first and foremost. But then you look at the Series X and it's like, yeah, the Series X is a gaming console first and foremost. That's what it's built for. Which is why I'm so excited for this upcoming generation, which I still need to make a video about that. But with all that said, you know what? I think this is probably where we're going to end the show. So if you have any questions, make sure you put them in chat. We're going to get out of here really quickly. We're going to only answer a few because I know Jez is tired. But I want to thank each and every one of you that was here on Saturday. If you enjoyed the show, make sure you hit the like button, the subscribe button. Hit that notification bell so you know when this podcast is live, whether it's on Friday or Saturday. Follow me and Jez on Twitter. We appreciate all the support. Everybody who, donated via Super Chat or joined the channel. But most importantly, we just appreciate you guys being here, watching the show, and chatting with us. So, with that said, the Gamer 396, he says, "Do you know if there's an upcoming Xbox gameplay event?" Jez?
No, I don't.
Jez doesn't know.
I don't know. I would Assume maybe, but I actually have no idea.
Yeah. We'll see. Maybe, maybe not. I don't know. Maybe I'll talk about that in a video tomorrow. Face says, will it be a problem for Xbox if there isn't a demonstrable difference between PS5 and Series X with third-party games since they're both $4.99? Well then wouldn't it? Well, it depends on your answer, but would it be a problem for Sony if there was a demonstrable difference between the two consoles at the same price? I guess it really like I don't expect every game to be a difference, because that's just not how this is going to work. There's going to be some games that probably the difference is going to be large, whether it's frame rate or resolution or whatever, and there'll be some games where the differences will be incredibly small, and probably some games where the games run exactly the same on both consoles, and maybe even a scenario where the game maybe runs better on PlayStation 5 because that was the case with the PS4 Pro at times. But we won't know until we actually get a chance to see it for ourselves and Digital Foundry kind of go to work.
That's the thing. It's getting to the point where the only way you can actually see a difference is if Digital Foundry gets its magnifying glass out. Like the average, like that whole sort of resolution gate from back from 2013, 2014, where like the PlayStation had a few hundred extra pixels. It's so annoying and hilarious how that was such a non-issue when it came to PS4 Pro and the Xbox One X. Like the Xbox One X outperformed the PS4 Pro in multiple ways, far bigger ways than the Xbox One and the PS4 did back in 2013. But the press didn't care. I wonder why.
Yeah. And Nine Lives says, do you guys think Obsidian or inXile will work on a new Fallout? That's too tough to say right now because Obsidian's working on Avowed. That's their big project. They also have people working on Grounded. Like Jess said earlier, they have people working on Outer Worlds DLC. There's talk that also Outer Worlds 2 will be a thing, and that like half the team is working on it. Half the Outer Worlds team is working on DLC for the first game, and half the other team's in pre-production on Outer Worlds 2. That's a lot of the studio kind of wrapped up. I do think there's another project that they are working on outside of that. So if we do get a Fallout game from them, it won't be for a while. And inXile just wrapped up Wasteland 3. I think they have a VR game coming out soon. And I know they're staffing up for their big AAA kind of sci-fi RPG, but who knows when like that game won't be out for a while.
That's a first-person shooter.
Do you heard it's a first-person shooter?
No, the job descriptions say first-person shooter with RPG elements.
Interesting. Maybe it's a first-person shooter in the Wasteland universe, kind of like how Avowed is a first-person game in the Pillars universe. Not. Maybe, I don't know.
It could be.
Obi-Wan.
But then it's kind of like it's getting weirdly close to Fallout in that case.
True. Obi-Wan says, question, on the Series X, does playing a game slow game download speeds like on the One X? Because that is true. If you do...
I think it does. I think it does right now, which is annoying. But hopefully, if enough people make noise about it, maybe Microsoft can fix that. I get why they do it. It's because, like, they want to, like, lower stress on the system and stuff like that. Because you have to remember, when a game is downloading, it's also installing. So, it actually does use system resources to do that. So when you're running a game, those resources are being taken away from a download and being used for your game. So, I don't know. Maybe that can give us some control over that to some degree. But from what I can tell, it's the same. It's going to be the same.
Keyshawn Thompson says, hey, I love the show. Just hopped in at the end, unfortunately, but I had to send my support. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you so much
for the support. Let's see what else we got here. Does Jez have an epic beard? Geiger Mass wants to know, do you have an epic beard, Jez?
No, not right now. I shaved it off. It's growing back. It got a bit too epic.
My beard's epic
lockdown.
right now.
Epic.
But I need to get rid of it. Skin Eastwood says, Rand, do you want to see a mid-gen refresh? Well, the interesting thing is, with the Xbox One, it was such an underpowered hardware that was obsolete, like, even before it came out. And it was underperforming the PlayStation 4 and all the games. it kind of needed that. I don't necessarily know if we need a mid-gen refresh with how much we're getting from the PS5 and Series X. Maybe in 3 years, we'll be like, man, these games can barely hold 30 frames. We need a mid-gen refresh. But I don't think it's going to be the same. So, I don't know. I mean, sure, I would take a new console that makes everything better. But I don't know. I don't necessarily know if it will be needed as it was, for this generation.
Yeah.
Zero Cool says, Jez, you guys, you think Microsoft is buying Ubisoft?
No.
Were you DM that whole picture about how they're buying Ubisoft and the picture that they, with all the studios?
Yeah.
Isn't it kind of getting ridiculous with all the? It's like Bethesda's not enough. We want Ubisoft now too, right?
Yeah, Microsoft's not buying Ubisoft. Sorry, guys.
Yeah, I doubt it. And Virgil says, hey, Rand, what happened to your review videos? I waited for Assassin's Creed Odyssey and Last of Us 2 reviews, but they never came, nor has any other game. I stopped doing them for a little bit, and I focused on other things. But with the launch of the new consoles, the review videos will be coming back. I don't think I'll be doing indie-style videos too much. I'll keep them limited to like the podcast with the videos and me talking about it, unless it's something I truly, truly love. But I just wanted to take a break from those. But they'll be back with the new generation. So a lot of people don't know how much work goes into making videos. So
yeah, it's too much for my blood.
Too much work. So I think with that, we're going to get out of here because Jez is tired. I appreciate him doing the show, even though he did one with Miles earlier. Jez, you're a trooper. And it's always great podcasting with you. So, if you guys on your way out, make sure you hit the like button, subscribe button, notification bell. Follow me and Jez on Twitter. You got anything to say before we get out of here, Jez?
Keep it gaming and be nice to each other.
Yeah, we will see you hopefully next week on Friday, maybe Saturday, depending on how things go. But yeah, keep it gaming, and we'll see you next week. Later, guys.